I reboot that.
I think that's a route to go down.
Click out of it and click back in it. Okay,
It'd
let
be
you do it without.
It'd be a
Kim, did you say next
one-time
week?
investment.
You say next week?
Yes.
One-time investment. Maintain it on a hard drive, put it in the cloud.
All right, is that,
I wonder how much we do.
this one's good. All right.
There's our man, Mr. Rigsby. Good to see you. I'm well. Hope you are. I'm doing good. Great. Great. Say again? I'm ready. Where's Mr. Rigsby?
He's up there, up and down.
Okay.
Lord have mercy. I don't know. I really just don't know.
Yes, I am. Has read up on it, but
It's still recording her, so just turn it around if you need to. It doesn't look like anybody was on.
what's the number?
Yeah. Just basically kind of read that and turn it over to me. And then,
That's perfect. Thanks, Sarah. Okay. Gracious.
help.
Appreciate it. Always.
You do it, Rob.
I get you. Call to order. This is the 14th day of July, 2022. It is 7:01, and our town council meeting begins. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Jones has graciously agreed to do our invocation this evening. Tim?
If you would, bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, many times I think we forget to just truly express how thankful we should be for the many blessings we have, and I think Stokesdale is blessed. I think we agree far more about things than we disagree, and please help us to remember that. I want to ask that you be with each citizen out there, whatever their troubles may be, and I ask that you would lead and guide and direct this council to use our wisdom to render the best possible decisions for the town of Stokesdale. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to introduce our soon-to-be deputy clerk, Mr. Robbie Wagner.
Welcome, Robbie. Robbie will be starting with us on Monday. He just joined us from the town of Rural Hall. I believe born and raised in Germantown, North Carolina, studied criminal justice at UNC Charlotte with something like a 3.9 GPA. Golly, man, that's amazing. So got a good basis in municipal
Didn't party
experience.
much, did you, Robbie?
But he has a good basis of that municipal experience that he'll bring with us, and I think he has a lot of opportunity growth with us to grow in his career with the town of Stokesdale and really help us out here. So pleased that Robbie's attending as a citizen, and even more pleased on Monday you'll be a town employee. So welcome.
We are looking very forward to your growth and what you can bring to us and hopefully what we can bring to you. Good. We need to adopt the agenda. Are there any questions concerning the agenda? Are there any additions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make two additions.
Yes, sir.
One would be to discuss the recent work conducted by Underwood from Sanford on our pressure reducing valve.
Where would you add that, sir?
Wherever you want to stick it, be fine with me, sir.
All right.
Where's you putting it?
I'm gonna put it at the top, Underwood.
So,
Where's it putting it?
so right above number 9,
Yes, I'm putting new business right above number 9.
should we call that 8.5, Mr. Mayor?
Sounds good to me,
All right.
if you're keeping score.
Okay, and the other one, Mr. Mayor, is a discussion and update regarding where the town of Stokesdale stands with the Metropolitan Planning Organization concerning NCDOT matters.
That's a good one.
8 3/4.
Yeah,
What about 8.25?
how about,
That could get wordy. Let's put that at the end if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, like 16 and a half.
either that, or we could do it at 9.5.
Let's do 16.5.
16 and a half, all right. And it is again, Mr. Jones?
Discussion regarding the Metropolitan Planning Organization and NCDOT projects in Stokesdale.
All right. We're down to, any other
No, sir.
discussion about the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda with those 2 changes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Jim?
Jim is aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Review the minutes, May 5th, 2022 budget workshop. I make a motion that we adopt that, those minutes.
I'll second that.
Jim is aye.
Any discussion? Jim? Okay, aye. Derek?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
We're changing our, we are just voting on one set of these minutes.
Yes,
not
sir,
both
right
of them.
now,
Okay.
right
May
now,
5th.
right now.
I can't keep up with you, Mr. Mayor, today. I'm slow. Okay.
It's okay.
Well, look,
Mr. Landrith?
I'm not.
I'm aye.
Jones, and I am aye. On May 12th, 2022, regular town council meeting, I make a motion that we adopt those minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. On the June 28th, 2022, open session, I make a motion that we adopt those minutes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
I am aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. On the June 28th, 2022 closed session minutes, I make a motion that we adopt those minutes.
And I'll second that as well.
That'd be a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
Yeah.
Okay. And.
I still will second with that
and-
change of verbiage.
And Mr. Floyd seconds it. Is there any discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye. We're down to public safety reports. Our fire department. Todd?
Good evening, council and citizens.
Good evening.
For the month of June, we responded to a total of 108 calls during the month. 63 of those calls were medical related, 14 were fire related, and 31 were of the other nature. So we closed out the year pushed more and more. And that is, it's a tough thing for everybody to do, but that's the closing of the bedroom doors at night. So I pulled some stuff up, that's put out by several UL, done some testing in some different, fire groups. And what they show is the reasons that we should do it and the safety behind it. And I know it's tough if you've got children and everything, if you're like me, I grew up with the bedroom door open, but they make a lot of good points of why you should shut the door. The first one is, fire grows 7% or 7 times faster now due to modern material, synthetics and building construction. Both of those add to fire growing bigger. In the fire industry, we always treat it as fire will double in size every minute. So if you put more fuel there, it's just that much faster. One of the other things I found interesting is 50% of home fires that have a death associated with them occur between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. So half the fire fatalities in residents are between 11 and 7. So I found that very interesting. One of the other things was closing the door. We talked about safety, we talked about survival. By closing the door, you can reduce the heat from 1,000 degrees in a room to 100 just by keeping it on the other side of that door. And that door essentially buys you some time. It can also make a difference in the silent killer, and that's CO. And it can reduce the CO levels from 1,000 parts per part to 1,000 parts per million versus 10,000 parts per million if a door is left open. So if you've got something burning in the middle of your house, the other end of it, remember, CO is a byproduct of incomplete combustion, so if something's burning, it's off-gassing, you know, it may be coming right to you, especially if you've got return vents and all. So I found that very interesting. And some of the tests and things that they have done shows that 40 years ago, it took 17 minutes average time to escape a house fire. So you had 17 minutes. Due to the building materials, the type of construction that's used today, the furniture that's used in houses, they say that number is down to 3 minutes. 3 minutes should be the number that you use for your escape. So I just found that very interesting. It's something that we all probably take for granted, we do. But if you stop and think about these tips that they give you, it can save your life. Just a door, that barrier of a door between you and what's going on the other side of it or another part of your house. So just wanted to share that with you. Also want to remind everyone that our fire district annual meeting will be Tuesday, August the 26th at 7:30 at the fire department. Running that in the paper, and if you want to see the agenda, you can go to our website. We have the agenda and everything listed there as to what's going to take place. What did I say? I'm sorry, it's July. I'm sorry, yes, it's July the 26th. I'm sorry, wrong month, July 26th. It's a good thing we got Patty with it in her paper. The last thing I want to do is make a correction. A couple of months ago, I was asked about the clock at the station, and I did not have the paperwork in front of me, but I did do some research. And in fact, it was not a member of the family of Stokesdale that came and done the presentation to us, but it was another citizen. So just so your minutes will reflect that to be correct. And I hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Todd, could I get a copy of your statistics? The fire door, closing is it all handwritten notes?
Yeah, it's just handwritten.
If you don't mind, if I could have a copy of that, I would appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely.
Administrative reports. Town clerk. Ms. Martin?
We had 8 new meters installed this month. Priscilla sent out 640 water bills yesterday. We had 68 811s. We have 50 meters put on hold for developers. We have 59 meters in our inventory. And she did speak with a representative yesterday. The supply has picked up, and so we should not have any delays now in getting meters anymore. We've been working on the CCR report. It's the Consumer Confidence Water Report, and that was submitted yesterday. Also submitted the HUBSCO report, and that is the underutilized business report. I don't know what that HUBSCO, the whole thing stands for. That was submitted also. It's a quarterly report. Also contacted by the North Carolina Demographer's Office, and I have to put together some information about new housing units and so forth that will reflect our sales tax distribution. So I'm working on that, should get that to them shortly. At your seat, I put some information on the clerk's listserv. It's come across the listserv that the governor may end the state of an emergency that was issued during the pandemic, and that may change the way we hold our meetings and so forth. Tom may have more information about that than I do, but it'll all shake out over the next couple of weeks. That's anticipated to end August 15th. And having meetings and people participating remotely, that's probably going to change. So we'll figure that one out. Several months ago, the town of Kernersville graciously has given us a vault, and I followed up on that. They are still in the middle of renovations, and but they have decided to hire some movers to move things within the town of Kernersville, but they, as a part of that, they will be moving the vault to us on September 9th. So we'll be ready for that. And that's all I have at this time.
And we have agreed on a placement for that vault?
Yes, it's going to be in the finance office.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Mayor, can I take a couple minutes to
Please.
just speak to the new trash vendor? GFL has begun their contract on Friday, July the 1st. To the best of my knowledge, I believe that the new transition has gone smoothly on GFL's part. I think they did a good job distributing the cans across the town, and in hope that our citizens are pleased with the change. Unfortunately, the asset retrieval with Republic has not gone as smoothly. The cans, it was communicated to cancel, and of course, all the citizens that, leave the cans out on Wednesday, June 29th, the last day of the contract for Republic. And we, as a town council, back on May 12th, we're told that Republic would have roughly 7 to 10 Penske trucks throughout town picking up all the cans that day. And their goal was to have 98 to 100% of the Republic carts removed from all of Stokesdale on June 29th, 2022, leaving no reason to impede on what GFL needs to start doing. That process has taken nearly 2 weeks, and I know it's frustrated a lot of our citizens, so I certainly regret that it's been as slow of a process as it has. I have been in communication with the general manager at Republic, and it sounds like a situation where they did not allocate enough resources or were under-resourced for that. So I know that's caused a lot of heartache from our citizens. We've certainly got to write many emails. I've gotten many calls, and I'll just leave it at that. It's been frustrating. But GFL looking forward to a new beginning, so to speak, for trash.
I too have been in touch with the Republic General Manager, and he's basically told me the same thing that Mr. Foy is saying. They're understaffed like everyone else, but they are working at trying to get these containers picked up.
When I spoke with him today, he thought that all the carts had been picked up, but on my way home, on Eversfield Road, it was clear they had not. So I made a phone call to them, and hopefully they'll have those removed tomorrow. But this just has not gone smooth. That's just really all there is to it. So anyway.
And our hands have been tied. We don't have any leverage whatsoever.
No, we just fired them.
Other than, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. We have absolutely no leverage. We don't have any money we can hold back or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we've kind of been at their will. And
But looking, it appears to be almost done, not the 98 to 100% on June 29th, as we were told, but anyway, onward.
Planning Board, Mr. Bass?
No.
Nothing on the Planning Board?
Yeah, and there's not a planning board meeting for July.
Okay, so he's here for the,
He's here for the zoning case.
Gotcha.
And no events committee update?
nothing events on Mr. Foy. Property report, Mr. Rigsby?
None at this time, other than, just, I know Priscilla has reached back out to GFL to try to make sure we have adequate number of trash cans in the park and such, but, I think she's got that worked out at this point.
Where do we stand with our Coke box?
Still got one.
Still there?
Just leave that alone.
They left some in the back that we didn't know were back there, so we have a lot of cans now.
They brought Cokes?
Do what?
What'd you say? Oh, you're talking about trash cans?
Yes.
Oh, the trash.
Has the-
What did you say?
has the
I was
Coke-
asking about the Coke box. Where does it stand? Is it still there?
Yeah, it's
I
still there.
haven't been down there. I
It's
don't
still
know.
there.
I carried out council's orders, Mr. Mayor. It is wrapped up, unplugged, and has an out-of-order sign.
All right.
You
It's
think
all-
somebody would call town hall? and
I had
at least clean it.
anticipated adding it to the agenda perhaps next month for final disposal if somebody don't claim it.
All right. Financials, Kim?
Okay, good evening.
Evening.
I'm going to start with the general fund. And I did update the balance sheet with the current interest rates and the current maturity dates of each of the CDARs. So on the balance sheet from the Bank of Oak Ridge checking, our balance is $23,272.55, and that is 0.30%. And the total of the CDARs in the Bank of Oak Ridge for the general fund is $2,560,381.23. Fidelity Bank checking, our balance was $316,838.89. Petty cash is $150. Our ARP fund with Fidelity, we've not received the second payment yet, but I do expect that to be coming in within the next couple of months, is $362,737.50. The accounts receivable for Gary's salary and the employer FICA for the month of June was $841.64. The water reimbursement, this includes also May 1 through June 30, is $17,935.05. And the shared overhead expense for that does include that, excuse me, I'm sorry. That was incorrect information I was getting ready to give you. I am just about finished with the sales tax refund report for the fiscal year 6/30/22. And our total sales tax refund that we should receive, we normally receive that within a month or so, is going to be $2,917.63. And that is up for the water fund and the general as well, the sales tax refund reimbursement. And let's see. As far as the water enterprise, our CDAR total is $499,934.89. Our checking account is $591,355.41. The CRF, and this does include the last transfer that I did for the month of May. It does not include for June 30. This is $175,959.48. The North Carolina Management Fund is $523,321.06. Our regular savings is $45,052.50. Our total accounts receivable for the water is $30,837.51. Our accounts receivable for the month of June is $28,270.59. And as far as, I have not 100% completely closed out the fiscal year for June 30, 22. I do have a few more items that I am expecting to come in, as far as for expenses. So hopefully those will be in soon, and I'll be able to hopefully get everything closed out. The audit contract has been sent off to Mr. Rouse, and I did receive an email from the North Carolina League that it was accepted. So we do have a letter of acceptance as far as the audit goes from the league, and hopefully that will start. I would like for it to start as soon as possible, to be honest with you. And that's all.
Ms. Thacker, what's the league have to do with the audit?
I'm sorry, that was the wrong, excuse me. I have something from the league too, but that's something else. Nothing. My apologies.
LGC?
Yes, that's what I meant, the
O-
LGC.
Okay, well, keep in mind, it's,
Sorry.
I have a hard time keeping up already.
Yes,
Okay.
I got you, yes. They've accepted the audit.
Thank you, Kim. Looking ahead, I believe this is the last year on Mr. Rouse's contract as an auditor. I guess I'll put this in motion form, but if you could, please, I'll make a motion that you reach out to 4 other towns similar to the size of Stokesdale to get recommendations for auditors. And if you could submit a request for qualifications to a minimum of 4 different auditors by September 14th, 2022.
I second the motion. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
I'd like to second that motion, but I'd like to make an amendment that council review this list before we send them off.
Okay. Okay. Then I'll make a modification or accept Tim's friendly amendment to have the list of auditors to cancel by September 14th of 2022.
Let's do it this way. What about we ask to see the list, and we have some time to review it, and if there's no objection from a council member, then Ms. Thacker can go ahead and send it, and that will keep us from having to vote again.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. I might mention that Ms. Thacker will be out of the country this next week. I just want to be sure that we're straight and we got all the numbers where they're supposed to be. I don't know where she's going. I hope it's not Costa Rica.
No.
But just, I'll count on somebody to make sure the numbers are right. I'm certainly not capable.
Yeah.
If anything happens, just go to Derek. He'll take care of
Yeah.
everything.
No,
Derek, okay.
Derek is not the finance officer
Mr. Foy.
at all.
Mr. Foy is always our go-to guy.
I'm sure Kim appreciates you announcing in the public that she's going to be out of town.
Well,
Break into her house.
yeah, okay. Make sure the security system's on if you would.
There will be somebody at my house.
Give me a key. I'll make sure you're okay. All right.
Post about it anyway.
Yeah.
Do we have any comments from our citizens? I think we've got a couple. Ms. Pickett.
Pikett.
Seth.
Pikett.
Pikett? Okay. Ms. Pikett.
Good evening.
I've read 7 books that do not belong in our elementary and middle school libraries, and I have,
Ms. Pikett, hold just a minute. Is that microphone on?
Doesn't seem to be picking you up.
it looks like it is.
There we go.
Okay, I've read 7 books that do not belong in our elementary and middle school libraries, and I've printed off some clips of some of those books that I have here tonight. The books are not well-written, but they are similar. The main character, and these 3 are Northwest Middle. The main character is a 10 to 12-year-old child with a big dilemma, and the setting is usually home or school. And the plot is the child's unhappiness, confusion, discomfort, but doesn't understand why. The parents are not consulted, and they wouldn't know what to do anyway. The child looks for answers with friends at school, or adults that the author has added who is a part of the LGBTQ community to provide the child with answers. In conclusion, the child either decides that they are gay or want to become the opposite sex or is bisexual. And then everyone lives happily ever after that. I'll read a conversation among 6th to 8th graders in the book Rick, which is this one. The main character is Rick, and he's joining a rainbow spectrum group at school. Hi, I'm Layla. I'm in 6th grade, and I use the pronouns she and her. And I don't really know yet, but I might be bisexual. Hi, my name is Melissa, and I use she and her. I'm in 6th grade. My connection to the community is that I'm a transgender girl. That's in this book. And then the conversation among the children is turned to ridiculous parents and the indignities suffered by their children. In the Guilford County schools, social emotional learning is evolving into mental health services, and it's very big. I listened to the school board meeting the other night. Parents are not needed in the child's life anymore except just to provide a place to sleep. They still want to get into our children's heads, and this is more dangerous than critical race theory. If children can be sexualized, the next step is easy: to break them away from their parents, grandparents, and family. A group will be selected for the child to in the school. The child will be praised for bravery, lots of kudos, high fives, and as long as they go along with the group, everyone will be agreeable, and the children will be told that they know more than most adults. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ringler? You're on item 8. Okay, we'll bring you back to the floor at that point. Okay. Any more comments? Any more citizens' comments? By the way, thank you all for turning out. It's good to see some faces out here. We have a public hearing tonight concerning rezoning. It's a rezoning case 22-04-STPL-02908-7808 US Highway 58 AG to RS 30. This is located on the north side of US 158, approximately 785 feet west of Athens Road. The parcel number is 164054. And I understand, Mr. Bass, you want to speak on this.
My name is Oliver Bass with the Guilford County Planning Department. And I'm here to submit the staff report that was presented at the Planning Board meeting on May 26, 2022. The Planning Board did vote on this case for a favorable recommendation on this rezoning. As stated, the request is to rezone the property from AG, which is agricultural, to RS 30, which is intended for a single-family residential, which is a single-family residential designation. With regards to the district description, the AG district is primarily intended to accommodate agricultural uses, farm uses, non-farm residences on large tracts of land, but it is not intended for major residential subdivisions. With regards to the RS 30 zoning district, it is intended to accommodate moderate density single-family detached dwelling units on lots with access to public water and sewer public water services. And the overall density is typically 1 0.3 units per acre or less. Any major subdivisions within that district must utilize Stokesdale water sewer systems. The parcel is in the area that is primarily mixed use with apartments, highway business, and residential uses. There is an existing home on the lot, which is on 12.25 acres. Surrounding uses are undeveloped, institutional, apartments, and undeveloped and single-family dwellings. Moving on to the, with regards to infrastructure, mainly the water services is provided by private septic in Stokesdale Water. It is on the US 158 major thoroughfare under the Greensboro's Comprehensive Transportation Plan. It will be subject to NCDO driveway permit for any major residential subdivisions. It is within the area, within the path of the NCDOT project. And it has a average daily traffic of 9,900 vehicles per day near the NC Highway 68 intersection. With regards to the land use analysis, it is covered under the Stokesdale Land Use Plan, which was adopted in 2007. The plan recommends that specific parcel for professional and manufacturing corridor, which is planned to provide for an area of growth of office space and lighting manufacturing services that is consistent with current uses. The professional manufacturing corridor is also identical to the borders of the scenic corridor. Currently, this portion of US Highway 158 contains industrial, highway business, office, and residential and agricultural areas, and no new industrial areas are proposed due to the number of areas currently zoned but undeveloped. With regards to the consistency, the requested action is inconsistent with the recommendation of the land use plan. The professional and manufacturing corridor is intended primarily for office space and manufactured services. Staff recommended approval. In general, although the requested action is inconsistent with the recommendation of the land use plan, it is reasonable in the public interest because it is adjacent to residential uses in the area, and it also provides housing opportunities for citizens in the area served by Stokesdale Municipal Water. The request is consistent with the plan. Thus, if approved, there would need to be a plan amendment to residential in order to be consistent with the rezoning. And that's concludes my staff report.
Mr. Bass, may I ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
I see in the minutes from the planning board meeting that Mr. Ringler noted the subdivision will be connected to the town's water system. But have you made him aware that that is a requirement in our ordinances, that any RS-30 property must be?
Yes, the applicant has been made aware that it is a mandated
Okay,
part of the
thank you very
ordinance.
much.
I have another question. Help me with my memory a little bit. Is that property not right in the path of what should be 158?
It is in the designated path, and they will be, depending on how they develop in right-of-way acquisition, it could be impacted by the construction.
Do you have a map of it?
I do not have the map with me.
Okay.
I was always surprised that house was built there because that house is basically the cutoff off of existing 158, which was to bypass the town of Stokesdale. But, I mean, if that's where we are, I realize 158 may never happen.
Correct.
It's gonna happen. I mean, no, they already said it was gonna happen.
Okay,
It might be 10 years.
it may be more than that, but okay.
Well, I mean, it could be, but it could
And in the
be,
meantime, we'll let people build houses.
yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
What,
all I have. Thank you, Mr. Bass.
That's it for me?
Mr. Y'all, hold on,
Were you finished, sir?
hold on now.
I'm sorry?
Is the applicant here tonight? You're the applicant? Okay, all right. All right, well, we'll wait till you get your turn and then,
Were you finished with your administrative report on this, Mr. Bass?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure you weren't interrupting.
Okay. Mr. Ringler?
Those that are in favor?
Oh, we've got a, do we have a motion?
No. Anybody that would like to speak in favor may do so now.
Good evening. My name's Rick Ringler. I'm the engineer of record representing the owners on this project tonight. Just a kind of a brief history about how this whole thing came about. When we first started, we were looking at different options of what we could actually do out there. We did look at the option of offices out there. However, the site is really not conducive to that. It's kind of shaped like a cleaver you see in a restaurant, and with the handle coming down to 158. Typically, offices are located in areas where they get a lot of exposure. That's kind of their advertising. That's why they want to have, their buildings towards the street. This site just would not work out like that, just because of the way it was configured, because all the buildings would be, 200 feet off of the highway and in the back. And that's not just it's not good practice to develop an office space like that. We looked at the option of maybe doing some, light manufacturing out there, but we know there's a lot of residents still in the area, and when you get manufacturing, you get a lot of truck traffic. And so that's not really conducive to being in a residential area at all either. So based on that, we kind of determined that in our opinion, the residential was the way to go on this. It seemed to fit the neighborhood better, have the least impact of anything else that we could do out there on the neighborhood. And so that's kind of how we came about to, wanting to rezone this for the residential aspect of it. I understand, we will have to go through, right now, this is just the rezone process. We will have to go through the, full plan development, and that's where we'll get involved with DOT, their requirements and everything else. We did have a sketch plan review, of which DOT did participate in on that. So they are aware of the project, and they have given us, some comments on it, some preliminary comments as far as creating, we'll have to put in a right turn lane, for instance, to get into the neighborhood and things of that nature. So other than that, I'm just here in case you gentlemen have any questions that I might be able to answer.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ringler?
I've got one or two questions. When y'all bought the property, did y'all realize it was in the path of the 158 bypass?
Well, we do, yes. That project's not officially approved yet or funded, so it's not an official project at this point in time.
So you're gonna build houses, are you gonna let those folks know that buy these houses, that's,
Well,
right down the middle of the property?
I would assume, once again, that's kind of getting out of my area of expertise. That's where you get into sales and notifications as part of, anything that might contribute to, to the house and the prices. So I would, assume that it would have to be done, at that point in time.
It'll be a realtor's responsibility to inform any buyer. It'll be a realtor's responsibility to inform any buyer.
What if they don't?
Then it goes back to omissions, insurance.
Tom, do you have a legal opinion
Yeah,
on that?
Tom, what,
And it's really, it's not gonna be appropriate for me to make a legal opinion on that type of topic or that particular issue.
Okay.
That's something you can certainly consider in your decision as to whether you want to change the zoning on this or not. But but that's kind of getting out there on the side as to what could happen, might happen, type thing.
Mr. Medlin, is it safe to say that the procedure we're following meets the letter of the law in regards to this subject, and there's no further action required officially by the town to notify anybody about this highway project, including the applicant?
Oh, definitely, yeah, no further duty on behalf of the town, correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Jimmy, do you have something else?
So that's not a restriction that we should add or anything? We should stay away from that?
This is a rezoning request. You're not allowed to put conditions.
Okay, all right, that's what I'm asking.
Is there anything further? Would anyone else like to speak in favor?
Okay.
In opposition?
Ms. Martin, is there anyone online that might possibly want to speak for or against this rezoning that we could be missing? They can hear us, correct?
There are no other people online other than us.
Just making sure they had the opportunity to speak.
The motion rests with council.
Can I just ask,
There is no motion.
looking at the map,
Certainly.
so if A is affected, then wouldn't Countryside Apartments be affected by this bypass as well? Just from my knowledge, because I'm not that familiar with the bypass route, is that gonna affect Countryside?
The maps we have in the building here, from my recollection, having seen them sometime back, show the highway basically coming through Countryside. It's what I'll call their front yard,
Okay,
but I don't think they'll be impacted beyond that based on what I remember
This
from
is-
those maps.
This shows it right here if you want to see it. And I just got, was for me, but, and I'd pulled up. It shows where it goes through Countryside and the whole thing. It's going to be a big deal right there.
But everyone agrees this may not happen for 20 years.
No, I don't agree
I'm
with
just
that.
saying, that's, I don't have a problem ever. I've never voted against a rezoning. I don't think anybody's ever seen me vote against a rezoning. If you have, remind me.
I think what Mr.
But-
Landerfear is
but
concerned.
what I'm saying is, what I don't like about it is that it's possible houses being built and people not being informed about it.
well, I think, they're required by law to be informed by the realtor and the developer. I mean, that's not a liability on the town. I mean,
We've had some built recently that's right in the path of something and they weren't informed.
Mr. Ringler, could we look at this map together and I just want to see if your parcel is indeed, if what I'm looking at
It's that middle.
is correct. So the way I read this is your parcel.
Mr. Bass, you have any bigger maps with you?
So the cleaver right here, there's additional maps. That's right. Cool. Thank you very much.
so it is going
The vast majority of this is out of that right of way. Is that correct?
I agree with Mr. Lander. If I wouldn't want anybody to be surprised and found out the house they just bought is gonna be condemned and a highway run right through the middle of it. I don't know, but as far as this council and what the town can do under these circumstances, we seem to be rather limited here.
We certainly are limited when it comes to DOT projects. Of course, at one time, the 158 bypass was down here. It was going to be the southern route. Those have been eliminated, which only leaves the northern route, which, in my opinion, if they do it, they're going to do it right here. So I'm like Jim. I think I voted against one rezoning case. I am very open-minded about this, but I'm going to have to make a motion to deny the request because I do not think it serves the public interest well. We're looking at a map where a future highway is in the plans of the DOT, and this is my understanding, the only outlet that this bypass could go because they have eliminated the southern route. So I would hate that for a future citizen to buy that property only to have that done later. So based off it not being in the best interest of the public due to a planned future highway expansion, I'm going to make a motion to deny the rezoning case, unfortunately. It's up to the mayor, sir.
Do we have a second?
Somebody want to say something?
Please.
I think it would be appropriate to try to get a second on Mr. Foy's motion here before we start off on discussion.
I always second motions, nobody else wants to second it, so it's gonna be seconded.
Well, I'm just,
But that's a point of order. I think you do need a second before you begin.
I'll second
discussion.
then.
Thank you.
If I can start, I have to respectfully disagree with Mr. Foy. While I do agree with his intentions and his thoughts, I go back to, I'm just not sure that it's this town's obligation to, I guess, play the overseer for this right now. I think it's too many unknowns and too far out in the future for us to deny it just on the fact of a what if. However, as we get into the planning stage and DOT gets involved, I think the harder questions could be asked then and have some more definitive answers.
You make a good point, Jim. If this passes, this could, if this does, let me say this another way. If this does not pass, this could potentially be a blessing in disguise for the developer if the highway is approved, say, a year from now. Because, yes, Mr. Ringler has a very good point that it's currently not on the priority list and funded, to your point. But at the same time, those lists change. It's a dynamic list. It can change at any point in time. In the January meeting, we had 3 members of the DOT present to us, and they were very clear that the 158 project was not funded at the time. But it still is in the plan, and when Stokesdale is only growing, and I think the DOT acknowledges that, and they've gone as far to, make the investment in the plan. So the way I look at it, at any one time, this could change, and I say it could potentially, benefit the applicant because, in that case, his potential project is just diminished in value significantly. But I'm not here for the applicant. I'm here for the in this case, it would be the future citizens of Stokesdale that could potentially be buying a house in a subdivision that may be very short-lived, and that would be unfortunate.
We have a motion, we have a second. This is to deny the rezoning.
Yes, sir.
Further discussion?
well, Mr. Bedlin, I don't see where we have a duty to deal with the NCDOT's business. We can't, there's kind of the 300-pound gorilla as far as the town of Stokesdale goes. They do what they want to. We seem to have very little impact with them. Occasionally, they'll come by and tell us what they're doing. With that said, we have no control over where they build this highway, when they build this highway, if they build this highway, when it'll be funded, or any of the other details, which is disconcerting for a lot of folks, me included. And with that said, that the applicant has the right to use their property for its highest and best use. If the town of Stokesdale doesn't have any particular duty to protect a future homeowner that may be faced with condemnation from a highway project in the future that hasn't been approved and hasn't been funded yet, then it's tough on us as a local board to know what to do. Do you have any further legal advice?
No, I'd say I probably don't have any further legal advice. I think Mr. Foy has stated a motion and why he believes it's appropriate not to rezone it to RS 30. You know, that matters, you know, he's taken all these things into consideration, so that y'all can either agree or disagree with that, and then, depending on the outcome of that motion, as to where you move from there.
Further discussion? This is a motion to, I'm sorry.
Hold on a second, I'm thinking. Hey, I'm gonna tell you something, I got a
Hey.
monkey on both shoulders.
Give me a Jimmy.
I mean, I've got a monkey on both shoulders, jumping up and down.
All right, well, you seconded it.
Talking in both
I
ears.
seconded it because it didn't look like anybody else was going to, and I've always said I second every motion,
Well, okay.
you know, because if somebody wants to get a motion on the floor, I made a vow I'd do that.
Easy, aren't you?
No, I'm not easy. It's just, you know, I respect all the council. If they wanna put a motion on the floor, I'm gonna second the motion. I'm not gonna sit here and let somebody's motion not get seconded. It don't mean I always agree with it. It don't mean I disagree with it either.
So what are you thinking at this point?
Oh, Lord. This is one of them times I wasn't up here.
I'm gonna have to say, Mr. Jones, you're right on. Best use?
Mr. Medlin,
Yes.
they've had similar situations come out. See, that's one thing, I don't wanna tie somebody's property up. Because they did this in Winston-Salem. And I've lived with it for years too. I wasn't tied up, but,
If it was within our power for the town of Stokesdale to notify each one of those property owners as they bought their home, that this was, or before they bought their home, that this was pending and might impact them, then I would vote to send that notification or that notice. I don't see anything to be done here other than to make sure that our meeting minutes, when we approve them, reflect these facts. And that's what I can do as a council member that I can think of other than voting to deny. If we go down this path, there's just all kinds of, there's always a reason to deny rezoning. And like Mr. Lander says, sometimes these decisions are not easy.
I've never voted to deny rezoning. And that some of these have been contentious too. And, I've never done it. But it does bother me that I don't know why anybody would buy a house in a development like that. But, you know, just go ahead with the.
I can, for my part, I can say it is incumbent upon the Realtor. And if the Realtor does not inform, then the Realtor's subject to errors and omissions in the contract. But again, there's no guarantee that the Realtor's gonna even know that. The obligation is on the Realtor.
Is that correct, Mr. Mellon? Is a realtor obligated to inform?
I would honestly tell you that I'd have to go research. There's a set of rules of what the obligations of a Realtor are. I do not know if that's specific in there or how detailed it would cover that or not.
As a Realtor,
Mr. Mayor,
He can answer, but
I
from a
can-
legal
I can
opinion, I'd
assure
have to
you-
go research that.
as a Realtor, I can assure you, it is there.
You're a realtor?
I am.
Oh, why'd you say that?
Well, I did many times.
I thought you was a store
I
owner.
just don't, well, I was, but everybody's
really
gotta have a backup.
Jack of all
little
trades.
side gig there.
Would you like to step up and speak?
Well, wait a minute.
This
You-
isn't
You've
probably-
already
We've
had your
already,
This is out of order.
comment. Wait,
We-
you've already.
we
wait a minute.
close- we
They've
close-
already
No,
had
no,
public
no.
comment?
No,
Wait,
it
I'm
wasn't.
sorry. Close for public comment,
sorry,
Miss.
I'm out of order.
No motion, so it's not appropriate.
Okay, no, I
Point of
wasn't
order.
in favor or against, I just,
No, It's still not,
I'm out of order.
it's
I
still not
apologize.
appropriate. I'm
I
sorry.
apologize. If you would,
Okay.
take your
There'll be
seat.
another moment, comments where you can say what you want to say, but.
we're sorry it's a procedural thing.
Okay. So now, we have a motion and we have a second, and it is to reject the zoning request. Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby,
No.
Mr. Foy,
Aye.
Mr. Landrith.
Oh, God. When in doubt, property rights wins out. No.
Mr. Jones,
I too am no.
you are aye?
He's a no.
I'm nay on the motion.
You're a no. Okay, I'm a no on the motion as well. Okay, so the rezoning has not been rejected. Do we have a motion to accept the rezoning?
Then, Mr. Medlin, would a motion be, do we need a motion to approve?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're gonna take action on it, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Do we have a motion to approve the rezoning?
I'll make the motion to approve rezoning case 2204 STPL 02908 7808 US 158 from agricultural to RS 30.
I'll second the motion. I don't see where we have a choice.
Do we have any further discussion?
Well,
Yeah.
One quick thing,
Yeah.
because I need to make sure everybody understands that with this motion, that this is inconsistent with the land use plan. Therefore, it needs to include that the plan be amended to rezone, to change that from to professional manufactured corridor to allow this RS 30, to allow residential. Because the plan isn't set for RS 30 in this place, it's set for the corridor. So the motion needs to include an amendment to the land use plan. And you probably need to say a little more about why, that it is reasonable in the public interest, because the property is not otherwise suitable for office and light industrial due to its shape, and that this would have the least impact on the area. That's what the matters are, but I think that would be appropriate to put all that into your motion.
Okay. So I'll, let me get to that. Let me get to that wording right there. And I'll just read it straight off of that. Yeah. So I'll, restart my motion. So I will, my motion will be to rezone case, approve rezoning for case 2204 STPL dash 02908, which is 7808 US 158 from agricultural to RS 30. And also to make an amendment to the land use plan to allow residential in that manufacturing professional corridor due to the fact that it is in the best public interest, as well as the land is inconsistent for business use in that area due to the design of the land, or layout of the land.
You accept that, Mr. Jones?
I will still second the motion.
Okay. Further discussion?
I'd just like to say that, Mr. Ringler, I hope that you'll tell your client to please, if they build houses, if it gets to that point and they build the houses, to let these folks know that's the only right thing to do. I'm a big property rights guy, probably the biggest one that's been on this board. And I still have a hard time. But I just don't think it would be right to build houses, have people come in their dream home, and then all of a sudden find out there's a bypass. They want to buy it, knowing a bypass is there, hey, more power to them, just like y'all bought the property. But I think it'd be about as, I was saying, be like a low-down skunk if they did it different. So,
And
thank you, and that, you know.
I would also like to address the applicant. I won't rehash what I've said, and my vote will be what it'll be, but I wish you and anybody doing business in the town of Stokesdale all the success in the world. But I will be voting no on the motion.
Further discussion? Mr. Rigsby?
Mr. Rigsby's aye.
Mr. Foy?
Nay.
Mr. Landrith?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We move on to new business.
Take care, Oliver. Good seeing you, man. It's been a while.
Thank you. Safe travels. New business, 8.5, Underwood, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As council is aware, town voted to have our pressure reducing valve rebuilt and serviced by Underwood and Company. They did so the Tuesday before the July 4th weekend, and on the following Thursday, we had a hiccup. It wasn't quite functioning properly, wasn't maintaining the proper level in the tank, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, the town had to spend some extra money with Yates Construction to monitor the elevated tank level and manually cycle a valve to maintain a proper level in the tank. And so late yesterday, I sent an email to Gary Wilkerson with Underwood and asked him to consider making an adjustment in the town's bill to allow for the extra money the town had to pay out to Yates Construction for this situation. I don't have it in writing. From what I understand from an email that we received from Gene with Yates, the cost for Yates Construction to take the valve out of service for the scheduled maintenance and repair, plus what I guess would be an emergency situation to some degree, is about $1,500 and change. It's less than $1,600. So I don't know how to proportion that out at the moment since I don't have the details. But I received a response from Gary Wilkerson this afternoon that I just barely had an opportunity to read. And he's offering the town of Stokesdale a $500 credit to help compensate for that situation. It's my personal feeling that Underwood should have done a better job and made sure it was functioning before they left town. And so I won't go into details of how that might have been done. But, they're busy. It was a holiday weekend, vacation plans being what they were, just not the best set of circumstances. But they're offering $500, and I want to make a motion that the town of Stokesdale accept that $500 credit and deduct it from the bill from Underwood for this work.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any further discussion on this?
Yeah, I just got a little bit, I just want to give big time kudos to Tim for noticing the amount of water in the water tank significantly decreased, and Tim, being as detailed and observant as he is, noticed that when he was driving by one day, and also so that was huge for the town. Really avoided any problem, but that problem could have been a problem. And also the team at Yates Construction for quickly resolving the issue. But had Tim not noticed that, I hate to think what would happen, so just hats off to Tim.
Mr. Ford, we'd have probably just noticed some reduced pressure, and where the town would have got some complaints, and, it would have just been a little slower getting a head start on the problem. But I too would like to thank Yates. I really appreciate their response. The bill was minimal. They couldn't have done a better job.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Landry.
think the fire, didn't y'all go out hunting leaks for us? Went out, Todd?
So we found out about it, we went out to the outer edges and started coming back in
Yeah.
to see if it was a leak.
Yeah.
We could.
And we appreciate,
How far out it was and how it was affecting the system.
yeah, we appreciate y'all doing that
Guys,
too, and
for
appreciate
sure.
everybody involved. And we're lucky to have a good fire department, and we're lucky to have Tim Jones that knows a little bit about the water system on here. People don't understand that sometimes, so I don't know, I know a lot more about it now than I did, because he's kind of force-fed me. But he does know the water system fairly well and keeps an eye on the little magic ball on the tank, and it means a lot for everybody involved.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Tim's being very humble about this, but he informed me immediately once he observed this, and for what it was worth, kept me informed as to what was going on and what Yates was doing and what Underwood needed to do. But yeah, his diligence was greatly appreciated.
Well, all shucks, but can we vote?
It's our first, might be the first Tim Jones Love Fest in the history of.
I'll make him a certificate or something. When you give it to him, we'll sign it.
We'll get something for him.
We'll actually
Let's
sign
get him
it.
a gift card.
It'll be a hanging next week from something else.
Mr. Rigsby.
Aye.
Mr. Foy.
Aye.
Mr. Landris.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
And I'm also aye. So we're gonna pay the $500, or we're gonna accept the $500 credit, rather,
Correct.
from
Yes.
Underwood.
Got it.
I'll get the email to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion on town park. Oh, wait a minute. Consideration of NCDOT Blacksmith subdivision encroachment. This is something that, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Martin, the state has already approved this?
The state is requesting the encroachment agreement. The state has already approved the water plans. You all have already approved the subdivision plans. This is a formality for them to dig in the streets to start constructing the water lines.
Okay.
They're requiring it.
What you've got with this is that the developer is gonna put water lines in. They're gonna run off the main and go into their development. In order to get into their development, they're going through a DOT right-of-way. You're gonna end up owning that water line and the right to have it, the easement for that as well. The developer will give you the easement within his subdivision, but where it crosses NCDOT, that's their easement, their right of way, and for you to have your water line go across there, you have to have this agreement. The only thing I would say is that I'd want to make sure that there is either paperwork already in place, and I'll have to check with the town clerk on that. And if not, then get something where the developer agrees that they will comply and be bound by the development standards that are imposed by this right-of-way agreement, and will indemnify the town of Stokesdale should DOT try to seek money from us pursuant to this agreement. Because it imposes responsibilities on the town of Stokesdale to abide by DOT manuals, accommodation manuals, stuff like that. So if the developer doesn't do what they're supposed to do, DOT's right, as far as where this encroachment occurs, DOT can come back to the town. I just want to make sure that the town isn't going to be paying anything that the developer would be footing that bill. So
Okay.
I'll check with the clerk and make sure that before they go forward on putting that water line in there and everything, that they are bound to, they've got a copy of this and that they agree to abide by it. The
Do we need to hold off on this vote until you can verify that?
No, you can go ahead and approve this, and I'll work on that end of it with the town clerk.
I'll make a motion to approve the right-of-way encroachment agreement dated July
You'll date it.
20th, July, I guess it'd be July the 14th,
Right.
today's date.
I'll second that motion.
Well, hold on a second. With the caveat that Mr. Medlin will review this and ascertain whether or not we need an agreement from the developer to indemnify the town. And as part of my motion, I would authorize Mr. Medlin to produce that agreement for the town clerk to submit it to the developer and get the signature, and then once that signature is obtained, I'll authorize the mayor of Stokesdale to sign the encroachment agreement.
Jim, do you still accept the,
Yes, Jim will second that motion as rewritten.
any further discussion? Jim?
Jim is aye.
Derek?
Derek's aye.
Jimmy?
I'm aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I'm also aye. Discussion on the town park. I believe Mr. Foy has some discussion there.
Hold on
on.
a second.
What have I done?
Time out a second here.
All right.
We have two documents that are concerning NCDOT. One of them titled Right-of-Way Encroachment Agreement, Primary and Secondary Highways. The other one is a three-party right-of-way encroachment agreement for primary and secondary systems. I'm afraid that I read the first one. I'm not sure if I've read the second one. Mr. Medlin, can you help?
Second one's is for the water main tap at the right-of-way of Angel Pardue Road and Adano Road. Now, the first one is just for the water main line that's going from there into Blacksmith subdivision.
So they both need separate votes, and they both possibly may need the identification agreement that you may need to produce.
Correct. But the good thing here is that on this one, the developer is signing off on it too. So they are bound by the second one, the three-party right-of-way encroachment agreement.
Okay, so,
But I would still like to have that same, make sure that they agree to indemnify, that they are bound and they're the ones on the hook for it. So I'm okay with that exact same motion for the second one.
yeah, I don't know if I can repeat it exactly the second go-round, but I'll give it a whirl.
Ditto, just use the word ditto.
Can we do that in the minutes? I'll make a motion that we approve the three-party right-of-way encroachment agreement on primary and secondary systems from NCDOT for the Blacksmith subdivision, which will also be dated July the 14th, 2022, with the understanding that Mr. Medlin will review this and determine whether or not a separate indemnification agreement will be required, and if so, produce that agreement, submit it to the town clerk for the signature from the developer, and once that's done, authorize the mayor of the town of Stokesdale to sign it.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rigsby.
Aye.
Mr. Foy.
Aye.
Mr. Landrith. Aye. Mr. Jones.
Aye.
And I am aye. Okay. Town Park, I believe this is Mr. Landrith.
Yeah, we got a couple things. Derek, you wanna,
Yeah, I'll start it off. First, I've handed out to council, there's two applications from two citizens to join a town park improvement committee. With that, I'd like to make a motion. We'll do these one at a time. But for one, for Deanna Reagan, to be on the town park improvement committee.
I'll second.
Mr. Foy, help me here, I made a motion sometime back, several months ago, regarding forming this committee. And I think my motion was either to have a three-person committee or a five-person committee.
I believe it's,
And we're hitting it right in the middle. We'll have four.
yeah, I believe it's 5. So Jimmy and I, if I recall, were the first two on it. And Ms. Reagan has applied, and I think the number was 5. So we're at 4 if these pass.
Yep, this will give us four, so.
Well, I just wanted to that was a successful motion, so I wanted to make sure that I reminded council of this.
So Mr. Landrith and Mr. Foy will be on this committee?
You've already voted us on it.
Okay.
That was part of my original motion, I think.
Now, if Tim would like to take my place,
He wasn't.
Do we,
So,
do we have any discussion about Ms. Reagan? Rogan, is it Rogan?
Reagan.
Reagan?
Did this committee have a hard end date, or is it going to be an ongoing committee, Mr. Foy? Do you remember our plan?
I don't even recall that being part of the motion. I mean, I would say it would be ongoing. I think having this committee together is an integral part of grants, for sure.
Okay, so we have two applications in hand.
Yes,
You and Mr. Landorf are already part of the committee, and that'll be 4, so we'll need a 5th member, and then y'all will be ready to go to work. Is that?
We'll be ready to go to work with 4, but yes,
we're already working.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, didn't realize that.
Yeah, we haven't got anything to present you. Well, we do. We actually do have something to present you here in just a little bit, but, you know.
Okay.
Just, give us a couple more heads, some more thoughts to throw on the wall.
The only other thing I got to say is, sometimes these things become contentious and the committee splits and half the members want to do this and the other half don't, and back and forth that goes. I wish we could come up with some system wherein kind of like the Supreme Court, where the majority opinion was rendered to town council and then the minority opinion was rendered to town council in writing, such that we could stay a little more organized than the town of Stokesdale has in the past, but that's just my thought on the matter.
Well, this is more of a just putting things together. I don't know that we'll be, having a lot of votes or anything. We're trying to come up with ideas and we'll present them, and then, we may present several different ideas, I don't know that we're trying to just get fixated on one thing.
Well, we haven't had a Park and Rec committee before, I don't think, have we? So we're breaking new ground here in a sense.
We don't, but the council's
you're
gonna, it's
right.
gonna be, whatever it's just like any other committee. Whatever we do or think about doing, we're gonna have to bring to council. And it'll have to be voted on, so it's not,
So I haven't missed anything. This committee will not have any spending authority, is that correct?
no, we don't want any, I don't want any.
Just making sure I didn't miss something somewhere along the way.
Nope,
Okay.
it's more of an ideas committee.
Any further discussion on Ms. Reagan?
Was there a second?
Yeah, I only second.
Okay.
Mr. Rigsby,
Aye.
Mr. Foy,
I'm also aye.
Mr. Landrith,
I'm not.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
and I am aye. Then we have Thomas Stevenson,
T.
T.
Yep, I'll make a motion for T. Stevenson to be on the Town Park Improvement Committee.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mr. Rigsby,
I'm aye.
Mr. Foy,
Aye.
Mr. Landrith,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
I am aye.
and I am also aye. So we have the 4-member committee established for the Parks and Recreation.
Yes, sir. Jimmy, you got anything you want to share? It was your item.
Which one?
Just
Oh.
a discussion on the park. I got a couple things, but I mean, I
The,
want to hear what you got.
well, yeah, I was putting it on there. That was one of the items where you got those applications. And the other is we're gonna present the,
Yeah, we can talk about that.
huh?
Just before we get there, as far as trash pickup in the park, that is now occurring on Monday.
Oh, yeah, we had a problem with trash on the 4th of July. Got a mix-up with the folks that do the park cleaning, so we had a little bit of mess down there, but it's been straightened out. And did they get in touch with Clint about doing it on Mondays now?
He came in today.
Okay, but is he gonna do it on Mondays? Change it to Mondays? We're gonna change those days to Monday and Thursday. That way the weekend trash will be taken out of the trash cans. We possibly won't have that happen anymore.
That'd be good.
So that'll take care of that issue, I hope.
Jimmy, I understand you actually emptied the trash over that fourth holiday.
Well, I went down there a little late. I should have went the day before. I thought they were coming in to pick the trash up. Tim called me and told me that there was trash everywhere, and I said, well, they're coming down to clean it. And, but they didn't because it was a holiday, and so it got mixed up, so I went the next day and got it up. But that's no big deal. I just wish I'd have known they weren't coming, but
Well,
it's fixed.
the
It's fixed
5th
now.
wasn't a holiday. The 5th, that was the day they were to come, right?
That's right.
So,
That's right, but we weren't told, so, but the guy was out of town or something, I don't know. But
Yeah.
It was a mess up, it's fixed now.
Okay.
And there were some people that picked some trash up too, and I appreciate the folks, it's quite a few folks that go around the park in the mornings, and they'll pick trash up, and I appreciate those. You know, they don't go get online and complain about the trash. They go out there and they pick it up, and we appreciate them. We appreciate them.
Amen.
Because we, you know, we're on a budget. We've got somebody comes in on Mondays and Thursdays, to do the cleaning, and then we've got our yard crews, that usually comes in Monday. That's right, Jim, isn't it? On Monday,
Yes.
yard crew, and, you know, we don't have a park ranger or anything that goes every day and everything, so,
Park ranger.
yeah, hey, you know, we probably will one of these days. I shouldn't say that.
Well, in this year now, we're in fiscal year '23. So in this year's budget, the town's allocated north of $400,000 for park improvements, which I think is a great thing. One item that received pretty high remarks from a survey from 2 years ago was an amphitheater. Personally, I think an amphitheater would be nice addition to the park and would serve as a kind of a focal point for folks together for whether it be live music or movie nights in the park. Also, with the close proximity to the school, could be used in some kind of, you know, educational capacity, you know, for school classroom functions. Kind of be the first nut to crack in getting that done is to, one, find the right spot on our property to locate that, and then we need a design. I think the design is important, of course. Last week, Jimmy and I met with a landscape architect. So we walked the park together, and the three of us were looking at the different spots in the park that could potentially serve as an amphitheater. In a spot that the three of us really liked, that had a lot of potential, in my opinion, is currently the very back of the park. There's a tree line there, but our property does go back pretty significantly far back. So, and also where that tree, you know, where those trees are, the land has a nice slope going back. Eventually, it'll go back to a creek, so, you know, we're not going to get close to a creek, but really where the tree line starts, the land has a nice slope, which, you know, I think would be good for an amphitheater. You know, it would require some clearing of trees. Luckily, there's no hardwood trees. I think Tim knows a guy that can get us some trees cut at a good price. But we looked at the you know, the property. The landscape architect we met with her name was Miss Lori Hawkins. She's very impressive. And having a good design, of course, I think, you know, it give citizens something to look at. I mean, a deliverable she would have would be, you know, a computer aided design that we could post on our webpage, and, you know, give something to look at. But we'll also need to be bid. We'll have to bid this project out to different vendors, so to ensure that we give an apples to apples approach for all potential folks that would be involved in this construction. Yeah, I think she will provide that, and that's critical. So I've handed out to council, or it's in your folders, excuse me, where she's agreed to a design fee. She estimates this will take 15 hours at $130 an hour. There's also a $60 printing and shipment for the plans. The deliverable she will give us will be 2 printed copies of the master plan to scale, and an electronic copy of the plan with 3D images of design, plan information, and the total cost for this would be $2,010. So kind of, you know, we got to start somewhere, and design's a good spot. So I'm gonna make a motion that we accept Ms. Hawkins' proposal for $2,010 for design work for an amphitheater at Stokesdale Town Park.
I'd like to second that motion, but Mr. Foy, I would like to put some kind of parameters on this, if I may. I want us to design producing a plan for an amphitheater is one thing. An amphitheater that would require additional parking, bathrooms, a lot of infrastructure is another thing in my mind's eye. And then in addition to that, is there going to be some cap on the possible cost of this? Can we, you know, put a limit not to exceed?
You know, Tim, I really don't know how much an amphitheater
Okay.
costs.
Well,
I think,
Let me second your motion, and then discussion here, we'll see where we go. How about that? I'll remove those
Okay.
impediments, and I'll second your motion.
okay.
Discussion? Is that what we're having now?
Please.
I'll just start on this end. I agree that the amphitheater was one of the most popular choices for the citizens, which I think we ought to follow the citizens' guidance on this. I would just add, and I think, I understand Tim's concerns, but I think that just getting the plans, once we get the plans, then we can start getting estimates for the actual construction. And that's where Tim's concern may be a little bit more valid. Just getting the plans that and we're still not gonna know after we get the plans what it's gonna cost us because of, obviously, she's not in the building material.
Well,
But I think, once we get the plans, we need to have a fluid discussion about site selection. I think we should all walk down there and
Absolutely.
agree on that. And just talk about some things like Tim's brought up as far as where we select it. Are we gonna need to add parking? I would also like to talk about maybe, incorporating some sort of utility building so we can clear out the, concession area, so we can utilize that
good
on
idea.
nights that we have events. That we can start utilizing the concession stand as well for citizens to come, and so if our Coke machine is gonna be, null and void by then, we'll have the ability to sell some drinks or something.
It may not,
Or
it'd
maybe
be nice
have
to be able
not-
to fix a
well,
hot dog or something.
Yeah, allow a nonprofit or something to come in and do those events or something, but just my thoughts on it.
I think that's a great idea, and council's gonna have a lot of discussion in the next year or two with, park development. It's been funded, in the budget, so, just because it's been funded, the work really starts from there. That was the first step, but, it'll require a lot of discussion. I'm glad we will have, a committee, going back to the committee, it's such a key part. Tim pointed, we've never had that committee, but it's such a key part in getting that part of grant, which, I would like to see us try. I mean, all they can say is no, but they're definitely gonna say no if we don't have a citizen committee, because I've seen the rubric. It'll be good to have citizen feedback. It'll be good to have a deliverable of something folks can visualize with what we're gonna do. So, we're in the infancy, but, I think we can get this moving towards good discussion so that we make good decisions as a council.
Well, I think this is a good addition to the park. We used to have a school that had a stage years ago. The kids had plays, and they could, have meetings or whatever, and, this will be a good venue for it. And, I mean, if we were going into our reserves, I wouldn't be even thinking about this, but we've had Uncle Sam has graciously give us a bunch of money that we've got to spend. So we'll be able to do this without a danger of property tax, like we've done everything else. Hopefully, we could do something that don't have a lot of upkeep, because that will add. I just think it'll be a good addition.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I too wouldn't consider this if it was coming out of what I'll term the town's savings account. Higher government has seen fit to give us money, and apparently we're gonna take it. The scope of work listed on this contract is as follows: creation of concept and final design for an amphitheater site at the Stokesdale Town Park, designed to include a new amphitheater for 200 people, a stage, access, circulation, walking paths, and surrounding area. Final landscaping and plans for bidding. And again, I'm not trying to split hairs. I got witnesses in the building this go round, but I just wonder if we're talking about everything's expensive, a $25,000 installation or a $250,000 installation. And I just want to ask the question now before we get too far into this. And if it can be answered, perhaps we should pause and dig into how much other towns have spent on their amphitheaters. I know Summerfield has one and Oak Ridge has one, which I hope is not the reason why we're building one. But that's the question that I have before I vote on this, and I just was seeking more information here, if there's any preliminary numbers that have been thrown around.
Well, you'll never get one done for $25,000. You couldn't haul a rock in here for it, probably.
Well, you could do $25,000 worth of grading and some seeding that might not have a roof on it, but, well, again, you know, I don't build amphitheaters, but I don't know what I'm talking about here so far as how can I vote intelligently if we don't have any target? That's all I'm saying. Not necessarily opposed to it, I just feel like we should have this discussion before we jump in here.
It's a good point. I don't know how to truly answer how much it'll cost. Summerfield's was $106,000, I believe, roughly, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. I bet today it would cost at least twice that. You know, I don't know how to project how much this would cost.
Okay.
I think it'll have 6 figures in the number and a comma,
Okay, that,
but it won't begin with a 9 either.
and with that said, keeping in the, you know, there's all sorts of handicap requirements and parking requirements, and then there's the bathroom issues.
And the handicap requirements were discussed in detail with Ms. Hawkins.
Right.
Very important.
Well, that's been,
Yeah, so did you have any idea whether or not this will evolve into another restroom facility or not? Are we specifically trying to avoid that in
That's
your
right.
opinion?
That's one of the bright spots to where it's gonna be. It is a reasonable walk to the bathroom, and it certainly is a reasonable walk to the parking lot.
Okay, so just unofficially, that's a tentative goal here, is to avoid having to put in another bathroom facility.
If we can take advantage of what we have now in any future project, I think that'd be good.
Okay.
and remember, she's just putting a design up. Just because if we get a design in, don't mean we have to go by it. I mean, we can scale down, scale up, whatever we need
The
to do.
first step, I really don't know where to start other than,
Yeah, I know, I find that once these things are started in this town hall, they're hard to stop, but that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Any further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. Jim?
Jim is aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
Huh?
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also aye.
that's all I have. Jimmy, do you have anything else for?
I don't have anything.
Does anybody else have anything for the park?
Let me just add, so we still need another member for the planning committee.
We do.
So I haven't participated in that as much, so I've got a couple people in mind I'm gonna reach out
Awesome.
to and see if they're interested. So I just wanna make sure still needed one more before I reached out.
And to back up here, that was $2,010 authorized to spend with Hawkins.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Discussion on closing the town hall to the public on Fridays.
Yeah, I put that on there. You know, that's been discussed several times. Talking to staff, it would be if you closed to the public, it would give staff an opportunity to do some catching up. They can always come in if there's something urgent, such as you need to get something to the county for zoning, or you know anything like that. Ms. Martin, would you like to speak on that just a little bit?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything you said, Jimmy.
You didn't hear me?
Speaking, heard part of it, speaking to your microphone.
I was talking about how it would help staff to be closed. Would
Well,
you?
definitely be able to focus on minutes and so forth without the interruptions. But we do understand that there will be times when there are things that'll be a deadline or something, then we will have to come in and maybe even open to the public, but, I don't really see a negative. I really wasn't prepared to answer that, but.
Well, I should.
You know, but, as I've said before, there is a lot of paperwork here. And with the limited staff that we have, of course, with Mr. Wagner coming on board, hopefully that will help a lot. There are times when we just simply cannot get it all done with the interruptions. So having some time that we can shut the doors and still work, from a staff standpoint, being able to schedule doctor's appointments and so forth on that Fridays would be a benefit to keep us from having to take time off during the rest of the week. Be a little easier scheduling wise, but
What do you think would be a reasonable amount of time from now until this is implemented?
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
Well,
When would you start this? The 1st of August?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking.
Well, I
but,
would go to, I'd go to y'all to see, y'all run the office.
I don't know that there's a magic
I
date.
mean, if we started
there's-
next Friday,
There's deadlines every month regardless, and.
Well, this is not a day off for staff.
It
This is
is
not a day off for staff.
Not particularly.
actually a
you know,
work day, if you will.
If they need to take a day, then that's a good day to take it. And I guess we'll need clarification whether they need to take PTO or not. Just having it closed to the public to be able to take care of minutes and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's gonna benefit us, but there will be times when we'll have to be open.
Well, I'll tell you what we can do.
You want
I
to
tell
make a
you-
motion? I'll be
Well,
glad
I
to.
could make a motion unless everybody, because I've kind of dropped it on everybody, we could all think about it and put our heads together the next meeting,
Well,
and unless, if you just want to make it simple.
well, it's on the agenda before us here, and I'm willing to make a motion that we'll close to the public on Fridays, effective the first Friday in August.
I'll second your motion.
And as part of that motion, I think we need to make sure that we put a notice on the door immediately, put a notice on our website immediately, and one on our Facebook page immediately. There's going to be somebody that's surprised by this, and that's unfortunate, but
Ms. Martin, how many,
I'd
do
like
we
to
have a
make
lot
that
of folks?
motion.
We don't have a lot of folks come in on Fridays, do we?
It depends. If it's the last day of water bills, then yes. But normally, not that many, but
Right,
it just depends on the billing cycle.
right.
On those Fridays that it's close to the date. Of course, we do have the drop box outside, so
Right. We have-
they can
have an
certainly
option.
utilize that.
Right, okay.
That date will be August the 5th for Mr. Jones's motion.
Now, will someone still be here? Staff will still be in the building, so there's someone here. And I think one of the things that notice needs to contain, that you're putting on the door, is that, if they need to file something, I mean, because it's gotta be open for people to be able to file and meet their deadlines, things of that nature, that if they need to file or otherwise, you have to come up with the wording, whatever they gotta do. They either can call in order to be let in, or, call this number and make arrangements, so they can get in and meet that deadline.
My motion does not include a requirement that an employee be in the building. Is it appropriate to have discussion at this point, Mr. Medlin? I made a motion, there's a second, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm not out of order here. My goal would be to give the town staff a kind of a quiet day and have an opportunity to take a breath. But I don't want to obligate the town of Stokesdale to make sure that we have an employee there on Friday if we're going to do this. Certainly, if somebody has the only day they're off and they make arrangements with the town of Stokesdale prior to meet somebody here on Friday, that's wonderful. But I think that negates some of the benefit if we're going to say that we're going to make sure that we have an employee in the building on those Fridays. We've already been closing on Friday afternoon. And one of my goals here is just to give the staff an opportunity to either be off or the staff an opportunity to catch up with their banking, their doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, those sorts of things. Give them a little bit of a head start on the weekend. And I think that there may be some benefit here. If just doesn't work out for some reason we don't foresee, then we have the option of changing it back at a later date. The town of Stokesdale seems to me like we used to be able to operate with the town hall open 3 days a week some years back. So that's why I want to make this motion, and that's why I'm supportive of it.
Mr. Medlin, is there any statutory requirement that we be open on Fridays?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, there's nothing as far as being open on a particular day, but
Okay.
just.
We're not breaking any general statutes or
No,
anything?
no, you're not to my knowledge.
Uh,
As long as people are able to still, conduct their business and either make their payments or file their petitions or whatever, or their appeal, if they want to give notice of appeal from some action or something like that.
So if I can speak on this, I'm gonna be the black sheep on this, and I'm gonna disagree. I kind of lean toward the town's business needs to be available during business hours. I think with the addition of a new clerk, we also have Miss Martin, we have Miss Hunsucker up front that can basically, and she doesn't do a lot of reporting minutes and anything like that. So she can kind of handle 90% of the walk-in business on Friday without it affecting the staff in the back. We're also getting ready to speak on a part-time position as well. It's just and I looked at the hours for Oak Ridge and Summerfield, and they're both 8:30 to 4:30. I would be considerate of maybe a half a day on Friday, but I think there's a lot of people that's their only day off or such, or maybe when they get paid and they come up and pay their water bill, and that's the only day, they get paid on Friday. I'm not in favor of closing all day on Friday to walk-in traffic. I would be, like I say, considerate to maybe closing at 12:30 or something like that to give them a chance to come in, and that still give the people in the back a chance to get caught up on minutes and stuff with, either the part-time person or Priscilla rotating the front desk. Because if we hire somebody part-time, they don't necessarily, they can be trained on the water enough to basically take payments and such. So you could still give Priscilla an opportunity to be off on some Fridays, utilizing a part-time position, and still accomplish what you want to accomplish by giving the ladies in the back or the gentlemen in the back some relief from, phone calls and such and walk-in traffic.
Well, that was kind of one of the reasons that I thought about this, was because I really don't want to hire anybody part-time. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I think we might be able to pull off what we're doing.
And Mr. Rigsby, I think we've already been closing on Friday afternoon. Is that correct, Ms. Martin?
Yeah, we're doing it now.
And we have, and I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying, closing all day on Friday to the public, like I said, we're going to have situations where people will have to pay their water bill before it gets cut off because that's the day they get paid or whatever. Or like Mr. Medlin said, they're going to have deadlines and such, and they're going to have to make the extra effort to call and schedule an appointment with somebody. And I just closing all day on Friday, I just don't. I'm not in favor of. I'm more than willing on a half a day, but I think it's a little unreasonable for the citizens to not have access to town hall on all 5 days of the week.
Further discussion? We have a motion and we have a second. This is to close all day Friday, effective August the 5th. Mr. Rigsby?
No.
Mr. Foy?
Am I?
Mr. Landreth?
I'm an aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I'm a no. Motion did carry. We will close Fridays, effective August the 5th. This is not, let me state this very clearly. This is not a day off for staff. This is a day for staff to catch up on things that are being done or need to be done. But if you have a situation where you are caught up, then you have the benefit of that day. As Mr. Foy mentioned, you might be able to get a heads up or start on your weekend. If there is no one in this office on Friday, I would ask that the staff notify me or Mr. Foy that we are aware that there is no one in the office. Any other discussion?
I think the notification should go to all of council.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's easy enough to email us all, if that's what what Mr. Foy wants to do, but definitely let us know.
I would just caveat to that to say with 3 employees on the roll right now, I would think that they could, just communicate amongst themselves to ensure somebody would be in the building sometime on Friday. I think it'd be any job or any office would be unacceptable for all 3 to be out at the same time unless it was just an unseen emergency.
I guess what I'm asking is the last person to leave on Friday, just notify council that you're not here, that the office is closed completely. Any further discussion? Discussion on the visitor log.
All right, we have a visitor log out front that, it's not utilized. And for one, I don't like the visitor log out front. I don't think that we should have to have a log to come in a building, to make a water payment or something like that. I mean, it's sitting right out on the front. So I'd like to make a motion to remove the visitor log for the lobby. I'll have a second part we'll talk about, but that's the first thing.
For the case of a second, of course, second, but I've got a question. Is the visitor log is that for anybody that walks in this building?
That's what it's for, but I'm saying it's not used. I seen George Washington had come in, and I forget who else. There's a couple of people that I'd have loved to have been here when they got here. But, I mean, it's kind of a joke, and I'd just like to see it removed, that part be removed. I wouldn't like it if I had to come in here and sign a visitor log on, just to walk in. I mean, if we're not gonna use it and use it properly, we don't need to have it. And I just don't think it's right to have it in the lobby anyway. Somebody comes in and wants to ask a question, you're supposed to be able to do a public information request even without your name. I don't know how you do it, but you're supposed to.
Did your motion get a second?
Yes, sir.
No,
Yeah, Mr. Foy seconded it.
So we can discuss this.
So I would also ask the counselor, does anyone know who authorized that? Because it was never voted on at council.
it was done years ago,
Was it?
yeah.
It was never utilized, and once I was elected, I asked that they have it so that we could have some record of who's in the building.
I'll have a second part to this, but it won't be, I just want to,
Well, if I may,
we'll
for
discuss.
clarification, it has been voted on in the past. It was required by council. The difference being that the clerk was required to keep the log. And if someone didn't want to provide their name or the name, the name wasn't necessarily so much as council attempting to get a picture of the flow of the walk-in traffic coming into the building, whether or not they were there with an park issue or to make a water payment or whatever their business might have been with the town of Stokesdale. It wasn't necessarily any attempt to track an individual so much as it was a monitoring tool for council's management use of the building and what have you. So that there was definitely a vote of council to institute this log, and I don't know how it got up on the counter. But I'm not aware of any instance where we have refused service to someone if they refuse to sign the log. Is that correct, Ms. Martin? It's been voluntary, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Rigsby?
Okay, I do have a question for clarification. Jimmy, is it your intent to remove this log entirely or just remove it from the front desk?
Okay, right, this part of the discussion is for that log. I'm gonna make it simple. And then we'll go into a second part that I'll put up for discussion for council, for a different type log.
Okay.
That'll maybe make more sense. But this is just to get rid of that one on the counter. I don't think it's right. It shouldn't be there.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Rigsby.
Aye.
Mr. Foy.
Aye.
Mr. Landrith.
Aye?
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
I'm a no.
All right, I got two parts to it. Now, this is one, we've got a locked door, we've got documents in the back. This will kind of be it, I just want to open it up for discussion. Do you think we should have a log for folks that go into the back where the files, and who would be responsible and how would it be responsible? If we were going to have a log, that'd be the place if you're taking somebody back into the area where our files are at.
Are you making a motion?
I kind of want to, it's not that I want to do it, I want to see what council thinks about it. How do we go about discussing it?
I support the original logic that was applied when that log was instituted, if that's what you're asking. The original purpose, I think, is still valid.
You're leaving me hanging here, Tim. What was the purpose?
Well, okay, go ahead, Tim.
I just spoke about that, Mr. Foy. There was council is obviously not here during the day, and so in order to know what's going on in the building, because this is a mayor-council form of government, we do not have a town manager. I, for one, don't want one, or at least not yet. And so there's only several different ways a council member can determine what's going on here during the week. One of those would be by examining the visitor log and, perhaps knowing whether or not the governor came through or not, or how many people came through.
Or George Washington.
Oh, yeah, well, we had George last week. And so that, along with monitoring the phone messaging with the building, the calendar, those Friday report that council used to utilize, those were the ways that council members could to basically monitor the business of the town from week to week. And in my opinion, that's the reason it was implemented. You might have to go back and ask former council members why they voted for it. They might have other opinions I'm not aware of, but that generally was why it was done. And again, it was no particular attempt to track any individual. Insofar as when somebody goes on the administrative side of the building behind the locked doors that Mr. Lanford is speaking about, it's just my opinion, and it's kind of always been our loose practice that nobody had a key to the building unless they were sworn, and nobody came and went of their own will unless they were sworn. And so council members are sworn in and the town staff is sworn in. And so far as visitors go, I want to know if a company representative comes in and spends 30 minutes with the staff with the intent of trying to sell something to the town of Stokesdale, or I want to know if a citizen has an urgent complaint and comes in and meets with a staff member for a complaint. And so it's a valid management tool, in my opinion.
I agree with Tim. I think the person working the front desk would obviously be the person to man that log, because they're the ones that's gonna have to open the door and record whoever goes beyond the door, minus the people that are sworn that have keys. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, for clarification, we're talking about kind of the same thing, but two different things. The way the motion I voted for was the visitor log as it's being used today is anybody that walks in this building, which I think is silly. So that's why I voted to get rid of that. Now we're talking about a visitor log for anybody that is conducting business in the town for one way or the other, that's where it becomes practical.
Yeah, well, I frequently go to governmental units that require me to sign in the visitor log. I occasionally go to corporate offices that the first thing they do is put the visitor log in front of me, even if I have
Absolutely.
an appointment. So, you know, there's just various times when, in my daily walk, that I encounter this. It's sort of a security measure, and in effect, it could help to protect the staff. It's, everybody just, you know, signs in and a record's kept, and that way, staff doesn't have to determine when somebody that comes in perhaps is, in their mind, sketchy or up to some devious purpose, then they have to make a decision whether or not they attempt to record their name and purpose and what have you. So it takes some heat off of the staff, I think.
I think we're all saying the same
Or
thing.
somebody go through the locked door, I just, you know, the other.
Well, I mean, the administrative side of the building is not open to the public. It's just that simple. Mr. Medlin, is there anything here we're missing?
No, I think you're, you know, where you're heading and where you end up is gonna be fine, so.
So if I may, I would just start, well, we've already got, we don't have a motion on this yet. So I would just say, I would make a motion that we incorporate a visitor's log for anyone that enters the secured area of the building, and that would be maintained by the person working the front water counter.
I'll second the motion. And just for simplicity's sake, Mr. Rigsby, can we use the current visitor log that we already have, because it's formatted, and put the today's date effective on it? And then if council wants to change it at a later date, or Ms. Martin sees fit that needs changes, we can cover that then. But just so we don't have to reinvent the wheel, can we use the current form we have?
Yes, and I would also instruct town employees to verify that the proper information is recorded on that before the person comes back, and the proper reason. So we would have an accurate account.
And put it inside instead of on the,
Yes. So George Washington is, if he comes, I want to be notified immediately so I can come up. So,
Driver's license.
yep, so, but that would be my only caveat, is just to make sure it's maintained in a professional manner. And, you know,
I
So we
think
have
our
an
staff is very capable of doing
we
that.
have an accurate, you know, record going forward.
And this is excluding council members, because we've had this one in the past, whether or not, some confusion amongst staff, whether or not they needed to write in that Tim Jones was visiting the building today, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I already had a key at the time, so it just kind of a germane point. But, this log is for those folks that, are not sworn, don't already have access to the administrative side of the building.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me ask this. Once someone comes in requesting this information, or requesting the access to the back area, is what I'll call it, do they have free access to that, or does it require that a member of staff be with them at all times?
They're escorted. Nobody's turned loose back there.
even if a council member brings somebody, you got to, you can't turn them loose.
I think it's a small enough building that once they enter the door, they're going directly to where they're supposed to go. And that person will be in charge to escort them out.
I mean, we've never turned anybody loose in the back of the building, unescorted. I mean,
We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy? Aye. Mr. Landreth?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
aye.
And I am an aye. Discussion of drafting summary meeting minutes conforming to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.10E. Who brought this one up?
I asked for it to be put on the agenda, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I sent this to everybody by email today, but it's possible y'all didn't get a chance to read it. But Ms. Martin was kind enough to print these up for me, and I'm gonna pass out one to each of you. my goal has been, and it continues to be, to make our minutes conform to the North Carolina general statutes in every way possible, which is a requirement, and, you know, generally we get there. And beyond that, I would like to see our minutes as brief and short as possible. Part of that is when you're looking back in the minutes attempting to find something, when they're long and wordy, 25 pages or 18 pages, whatever they may be, you can't find what you're looking for, has been my experience. And the other part of this is I don't want to use the citizens' money to pay staff to write these long narrative minutes. I think it's just a waste of time. I think it's a waste of money. We need to keep in mind that our citizens are paying these bills, and the more money we spend on preparing minutes, they're too lengthy. That's less money than, for example, we might be able to spend on an amphitheater. So we need to be judicious with the citizens' money, and that's my motivation. Ms. Martin has supplied us with the 143-318-10 and highlighted E, wherein every public body shall keep full and accurate minutes. And so I won't read the rest of that. The handout that I've given you is dated 1/22/19, comes from Trey Allen with the School of Government. And I'm certainly not going to read the whole thing, and there's several pages here. But what I highlighted down at the bottom of the first page for you, I will read. And this is in regards to a North Carolina Supreme Court decision that was rendered. And the thing that resonates with me about this whole thing, about the definition of full and accurate minutes, is this. The court explained that a public body's minutes should contain mainly a record of what was done at the meeting, not what was said by members. It explained that a public body's minutes should contain mainly a record of what was done at the meeting, not what was said by members. And so I'm hoping in the next month or two, Mr. Wagner is going to be joining us, and we're catching up the backlog in minutes that was as much as a year behind, and gosh, that sure feels good, where I feel like we're turning the corner. And I would like to just call this to council's attention. I'm just one of 5 here, and I can't make anything happen by myself. But I would just like to contend that we need to do a better job, and these minutes need to be shorter as a general rule than they have been in the past. And so I wanted to call this to council's attention, and of course, if there's anybody, any citizen that wants to have any input, then, you know, that would be appropriate, but I'm not prepared to make a motion, but I certainly may in the August meeting regarding the length of minutes and format and, you know, that sort of thing for the items that aren't already required by North Carolina general statute. I want to state that I'm not trying to circumvent any requirement of North Carolina general statutes. I just want short, brief, summary minutes. Thank you.
I'd like to really give you something to think about. The other handout that we were given, the open meetings law allows recording meetings and allows a recording to serve as minutes. We spent a fortune over the years with minutes, a fortune. I mean, we could have playground equipment, we could probably have walking trails with the money we spent. And there would be an initial investment, and I don't know how much it would be, because we'd have to have a way to retain these things, the minutes. From what I've always found, I can read the minutes and go back to the meetings, even with whoever's doing the best minutes, and it, you know, a lot of times you're not getting the whole conversation or whatever, and this way you would. If this is legal, I don't know why we don't get into, you know, looking into this and how we could retain the records and get out of the minute writing business. I mean, it's legal. If somebody, you've got the agendas. So you can take an agenda. I've listened to I don't know how many meetings I've listened to on the CDs, but you can take the agenda and you can go down it and look and actually see what somebody has said and what was done. You've got the action agenda that Dale puts out. That's a pretty good item. We could, keep doing that. But it's something to look into, and then we would be done with, look at the time we spent. And we tried to hire some people, and we can't get that, we haven't been able to get that right. We're behind. This way you take your recordings, you could put them online, and then I don't know what you'd have to do to retain these, but it couldn't be that expensive. Just something to think about. While you're thinking about this, think about that too.
I think the biggest challenge to that I see is two things. Storage space, which is something that I'm probably going to have to bring up soon. We're going to have to buy some more cloud space because we're getting close. And as you start incorporating saving minutes, which we already saving them, but if you're saving them in a more of the whole format and whatever, they'd probably have to be cataloged and stored in order to where the citizens could come in and, easily access them. Not a big deal, but I think the biggest concern would be we run into, and Dale can speak on it, is some of us not speaking into the mics, and the meetings are inaudible at times. So if we're going to do something like that, we would just need to probably come up with almost a foolproof method to make sure that it got recorded at a good level.
We would.
So I don't know what that is, if it means more microphones, more sensitive microphones, but that would be my only thought on it.
Well, Mr. Landorf, I think that's an excellent idea to consider, and my suggestion would be that we look out there in North Carolina and see if we can find another town that's already doing that and study how they are pulling this off. I'm all for looking into that with, maybe some reservations. I'm concerned about technical failures that could, a bug that erases all our audio records or something. Our written minutes are fairly safe in our fireproof cabinets, I hope. But that would be my biggest reservation, I think, against audio minutes.
Well,
but it certainly sounds good to me.
Just something to think about, and if anybody, I'm gonna start trying to look into it myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying vote on anything like that tonight, but, that's a biggie there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you think about the money we spend with minutes and the time that we would free up. It could be tremendous, I believe.
No, I agree, and like Councilman Jones said, we've got to not reinvent the wheel here, but what I would feel the best about something like that. I certainly trust the cloud and trust the backup, but almost to a point, if we're going to do that we do make a hard copy of each set. Just download them onto a CD or whatever the best method would be. So we do have a hard copy in a file, at least for the first couple of years until we, got a little smoother at it.
We'd have to by law, if we did it, have it right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be any,
So.
and it may be
I
expensive.
think in addition to audio, whatever you do on audio, you've still got to have a set of written minutes that just records the actions that were taken, the motions that were made, the votes that were taken. At the very minimum, it says discussion was had. You don't have to get into any of that, but you got to have the actions taken, because the written record is a draft. That comes back and has to be voted on and approved. You can't do that with audios unless you all sit down and listen to them. So you got to approve those written minutes, then they become official. And that goes into a book, correct? So at the very least, you've got to have some form of a written set of minutes that take account of the actions taken. And I think that's what Tim's getting at, is that as I think the town's minutes have gotten way too long, they get way too much detail about all these discussions, and it's not necessary. If you maintain the audios, you or anybody else can always go back and listen to them. But once you vote, the record only has to really say these were the actions that were taken. Yep. If you want to put something in the record or have it in the minutes about what your position was, tell the clerk to be sure to insert that in the written minutes.
Now, Ms. Martin already does an action agenda, which I think is great. I mean, and she'll probably have it sent to us tomorrow or Monday. But I'm reading, I mean, the statute, it says here, the General Statute 143-318.143A, the open meetings law allows recording meetings and allows a recording to serve as minutes. I mean, that's what it says. I don't know. That's on paper, so there may be another statute that throws something else in. But if you did something like that, it definitely would want her action agenda, like she set up. She's got a template for that, and I think that is, that's probably pretty much, what Tim's talking about on the, on the minutes, but.
Well, I like this so good, I'm gonna read it again. It explained that a public body's minutes should contain mainly a record of what was done at the meeting, not what was said by the members. And so I think there's one other point I'd like to make to council would be, certainly if Mayor Crawford or Jim Rigsby gets that first draft of the minutes and he thinks it's important that some particular statement be included or something added to the minutes for a second draft, hey, I'm all for it. We'll look at it. But I'm just basically talking about the first draft that we produce. We're not Stephen King here. We're not writing novels. We need to be mindful of how much this is costing.
And while we're talking about minutes, I voted on a set of minutes tonight that I was not present at. And I know we've had that come up, and I was reading a blog that was sent to me. I don't know if Tim sent this or what, but it states that that you should vote to approve minutes, and this is if you weren't here, to vote to approve draft minutes for an earlier meeting, unless you have a specific or reliable information or evidence that the minutes are not accurate. So we're kind of obligated to vote on these minutes now. Let's say when I was voting, I voted yes on the minutes, and I did so because there was no objections to the minutes. So I just want to clear that up. That is in the blog, and I'll be more than glad to share it with anybody. So, because it's going to come up again, especially when you have three. I mean, we could possibly have 3 new council members here in a year and a half, and you couldn't get the minutes. You couldn't get the minutes approved, and that is in a school of government blog.
Certainly.
Just wanted to share that, and I know everybody just was kind of up in the air about it, but unless there is a reason you think the minutes is bad, because it,
To speak to your point, Jim, you have considered that before voting no on minutes. What if everybody voted no on the minutes? We wouldn't be able to approve the minutes, but it would simply mean that we would back up. Somebody would make another motion and perhaps change some of the parameters, or we would agree to review an audio or whatever it took to get that third member comfortable where they could vote on those minutes. Then we could move forward. I mean, there's no end to the motions we can make. It's not necessarily a given that every motion that's made has to pass. Sometimes it's, as we've proven, it's better that motions fail and create more discussion and make sure we get it right. But I certainly respect the point you're making and agree it's got to be done. I've just always been uncomfortable voting on meetings I haven't attended, especially going back a year or something like that.
well, I voted because I felt like I'm obligated to do it by what the blog says of School of Government. And I'm just sharing it with you guys. You guys can still do what you want to. I just know that there's a possibility you'll come up, and if that same attitude goes after the next election, you may have a set of minutes that, you won't get passed. Somebody will have to break that pattern. So that's all I'm saying. It's there for some. I'll share it if anybody wants to read it and see it. Just the reason I brought it up, it might make you more comfortable doing that, and that don't come up sometimes, because if you vote no on the minutes, it usually should be that there's something wrong with the minutes.
Jimmy, I agree. This is one of the things we covered in my mayoral 101 class, that minutes are to be approved.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm not pointing a finger or anything. I'm just saying, I didn't know that either until I was doing some reading, so I'm just sharing it, not trying to put anybody on the spot.
Any further discussion on drafting summary minutes? I think we're all in agreement. Review of Friends of Stokesdale paid invoices and canceled checks in conformance with NCGS 159-40.
Ms. Martin, Ms. Thacker, council voted to request paid invoices and canceled checks from the Friends of Stokesdale a couple of months ago. Have they been delivered? Did you get an acknowledgement of the notification? Ms. Martin? Does anybody remember which meeting that vote was taken? I don't have my meeting notes with me. I think it was,
It was the May meeting.
was it the May meeting?
I sent the email, June the 6th is when I sent the email to town council, so it had to have been the May meeting.
What, was a letter sent?
It was, yes, it was an email.
I know, but you didn't get a response. Was a phone call or a letter sent?
No, sir.
Mr. Medlin, now I got a question. Insofar as this set of circumstances, would an email be considered legally sufficient as a request to the Friends of Stokesdale?
Yes.
I mean, should we have done more?
Well, I think that an email is sort of like, or a phone call is your first attempt, and if they don't respond, then I think a formal letter is the next appropriate step, signed by an official of the town telling them what you want. And, you know, if you want to send that certified so you have proof that they received it, because somebody signed for it. Or you can just send it regular mail.
Okay, so far as a follow-up, then I'll make a motion that the Stokesdale Town Attorney draft a letter and send it certified mail to the Friends of Stokesdale requesting the paid invoices and canceled checks for all public monies provided by the town of Stokesdale in the past. And in addition to that, I think the original motion was a request for any agreements that have been entered into between the town of Stokesdale and the Friends of Stokesdale. Excuse me, yeah, Friends of Stokesdale. I'm getting myself confused here. And that would be my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'm gonna second the motion, but I've got a comment.
Please.
Tim, I think you're referencing, and when we put a policy together in May, we referenced the policy about I believe the statute says, and I don't have it in front of me, having to deal with disbursements over $5,000 to a nonprofit.
1,000.
1,000.
Mr. Foy then read North Carolina General Statute 55A 1624, which requires that a nonprofit which receives over $5,000 in grants, loans, or in-kind donations from a local government to provide financial documents upon a written demand. He then clarified that therefore Mr. Jones' request was indeed aligned with the state law. I also remember asking a question about our authority to ask for this, and I think we come to the point that we do have the authority to ask for this, but you know, one thing to remember is the Friends of Stokesdale was in their infancy at their time, I believe, and I don't think they were even a certified nonprofit. So I still have reservations about our authority to ask for this.
If they weren't a nonprofit, it wasn't legal for the town to give them the money.
My point stands. I don't know, I mean, that's,
Well, now, 5,000 was the total. You talking about the mural? Is that,
Well, there was the town of Stokesdale officially has been involved in 2 transactions with the Friends of Stokesdale that I'm aware of. There may be others. That's why I'm asking for these agreements. The one was concerning a clock at the fire station. The other was a mural that's on the west side of the old downtown buildings there. So if there are others, not to my knowledge, but I couldn't eliminate that as a possibility.
Excuse me. I know that this is a discussion I'm not supposed to.
Well, if you would, if, Ms. Theory, point of order, I feel like if we're going to enter into a public discussion, take comments, then we need to go at formally, you need to come to the podium. I'm not trying to shut you down, but Mr. Mayor, I would ask that we maintain order.
But you're misinforming the people.
There'll be a time you can discuss this.
He's just asking you to go to the podium, ma'am.
Well, I'm not running the meeting, ma'am, so I don't have I'm just saying that the audio doesn't pick up.
Okay, the Friends of
Mr. Mayor, do you want to allow her to
Stokesdale,
speak?
Yes,
Friends of
she's allowed to
Stokesdale did
speak.
not request the clock. I don't know where you're getting that from. The town of Stokesdale had been given money that was supposed to enhance the town. You used it for the sign at the school, and then there was a portion left over. I was not a member of the Stokesdale, Friends of Stokesdale at that time. I spoke up. Mayor Flint nodded in agreement. I said, what are you going to do with the extra money? And some of you thought, you weren't on the council then, some thought you were going to put that into your coffers, and that's not what it was meant to be. It was meant to be spent on the town. So I suggested, as an individual, not as the Friends of Stokesdale, for the clock, the mayor asked me to have a meeting at my house, secure some bids, blah, 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 and everything. I had a luncheon. Mr. Bruno came, Vicki White Lawrence came, the gentleman from the clock company. It was determined that they were short some money, and I put that money out. So don't say that the Friends of Stokesdale asked for that clock. They did not. And I think that when you're going to make a statement, you have to have the facts right. And that's why I had to interrupt your discussion. You're putting something out there publicly that's not right. And now, Mr. Golden corrected the fact also, that was also a misinformation put out there about the Friends of Stokesdale. So please do not denigrate our organization. Thank you.
Ms. Theory, the Friends of Stokesdale, the clock money wasn't given to the Friends of Stokesdale, was it? Was it?
No.
I don't think he's talking about that.
He
because-
did, he said that the Friends of Stokesdale with the clock. He did.
Okay, I didn't catch it, but
Yeah,
but the
no.
money, but what, I just want to make it clear.
I'm
the
making it
clock-
clear what he said. You might have been sleeping.
I might have been.
Because what he said was the money that we received was for the mural and then for the clock.
That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is make it clear that the money wasn't given for the clock to the Friends of Stokesdale. The Friends of Stokesdale didn't purchase the clock with town money.
Right, so
Is that correct? It wasn't.
it wasn't the Friends of Stokesdale. At that time, I spoke as an individual.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, and I made the suggestion, and the Mayor Flint thought it was a good idea. He said the town could use a clock.
Yeah. And we're
So
not- you know,
I don't want it associated with the Friends of Stokesdale. The mural is what we were given money for.
Yeah, and it was under $5,000, from what I remember.
Yes, and at that time, when we had the meeting, all of the decisions were being made by Mr. Bruno. I just served them lunch. And then when they decided that they were short the money, I decided and actually it was in honor of my late husband because he loved clocks. I think at the time it was maybe 35 or 4,000, I forget what it was. I don't make note of it. But to say that it was the Friends of Stokesdale, no. So they don't owe any kind of receipts for that. Okay, and Todd did straighten it out that we didn't appear before the board, somebody else did.
And I mean, all I'm saying is the town did not give the Friends of Stokesdale any money for the clock.
Tell that to Tim, okay?
Well, I'm making this statement and trying to clarify it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
all I'm doing, because I
Okay.
didn't think they did.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't here,
And I know that I get emotional, but I don't want our organization to be getting any kind of a reputation that we're not doing what we should do.
Right. You know, I don't think nobody's trying to do that. I hope not. That's right.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second, and again, I'd like to restate, the only two projects that I'm aware of that the Friends of Stokesdale have been involved with the town of Stokesdale would be the mural and the town clock. There was some back and forth about landscaping as recently as a couple of meetings ago with the Friends of Stokesdale over the clock landscaping. If the Friends of Stokesdale have no paid invoices and no paid canceled checks, then they don't have anything to give to the town. I don't have a list of the checks written to the Friends of Stokesdale. I would have to go back in the records and ask Ms. Thacker to produce all those checks, and we have a glitch, as I understand it, wherein we can only go back 2 years because we cannot get back into the older financial records. Is that correct, Ms. Thacker? And so I would remind council, these are public monies. We have put in place a policy to govern the town's actions going forward in the disbursement of public monies to nonprofits.
Right, and I feel like it is a good policy going forward. I still want to make the point that, in my opinion, I haven't seen Friends of Stokesdale's nonprofit incorporations. I do not believe they were a nonprofit at the time. Those monies were dispersed to a group of driven and caring citizens. So I don't, where's the authority?
Well, Mr. Medlin, if that money was given to a group of citizens, was that a legal action by the town of Stokesdale?
I think well, if it's given so that they can further an action that the town deems is in the best interest of the town and the citizens, I don't know that they have to be a nonprofit in order to do that. I'd have to look that up myself, but I think if the key really, when you're giving money out, is public use as opposed to private use. That's usually what you're most interested in.
The public funds can only be used for a public purpose, is that correct?
That's right.
And every dollar it's my understanding, Mr. Medlin, that every dollar given to every dollar of public money given to a nonprofit in the state of North Carolina is subject to audit by that governmental.
Anything, I think statute, anything over 1,000. I don't know that you.
Well, okay, I'll back up. Yeah, I see that. Anything over 1,000 is subject to audit.
And it absolutely is.
And so, Mr. Foy, what do you think we should do here? Council's already voted and asked for this information, and we don't have it. I was simply
Cancel
made a
has,
motion to have the town attorney contact them and ask for it again, rather than making a motion to ask them for an audit.
certainly, that's your right to make the motion. I'm just simply looking back at the statute. If this was not a formal nonprofit at the time, I don't see how the statute applies.
Well, that's an interesting question, Mr. Foy.
You can still ask.
Well, the statute says that we could call an audit. You could call for an audit of the organization if they were a nonprofit, if you wanted to. I'm not saying I want to. But, that's what the statute says, if they were a nonprofit. If they're not, I think, maybe, go ahead.
Ms. Thacker, do you happen to know who the check was made out to, or is it possible, that the records go back that far? Do you have any recollection?
The last two checks that I have, July 22nd of 2019, there was a check written to the Friends of Stokesdale, and this is for the town mural, and the amount was $4,636. And then there was another check written on January the 14th, 2020, but that was for the donation for participation in the Christmas parade, $100. And those are the only two checks that I have.
That come up in your searches and in your system, but keeping in mind that it doesn't go back past a point in time.
Now, I could, Dale and I have spoke with each other about going back and looking to see in the receipts, the actual hard copy invoices and things like that, because there should be some type of documentation of the check itself with some type of receipt, some type of, not an invoice, but something.
Okay.
It should be, so we can dig through. 4636.
All right, Mr. Foy, the town finance officer says that a check was written for $4,636 in cash by the Friends of Stokesdale. If they weren't a bona fide nonprofit, Mr. Medlin, what's our recourse here?
That's my understanding, but I have not asked any member of the Friends of Stokesdale that. I just remember in timing when I remember it was a bigger deal that they became registered as a nonprofit. I could be totally wrong. Joe, help.
Please,
sir.
if you would.
While you're approaching, I just have a question for Mr. Jones. What is our end game on this? I mean, are we trying to go back and audit something that's 3 and 4 years in the past? Or what is our end game here?
I'm willing to make a motion to ask for the audit if the Friends of Stokesdale refuse to provide this information. This was public money.
But do we feel that there was something nefarious that has gone on, or are we just, I'm just asking, do we feel that something was nefarious? I mean, we all see the mural, we all see the clock.
Sir, do you not feel any obligation to account for the public funds that are dispersed out of this building?
I think it was accounted for during the vote of the 5 councilmen at that time, and based on their reasonable assessment of that was gonna be used at that point. The two things they voted on, the clock or the mural, both, we can obviously see it. There's no complaints or no evidence of anything that has gone on nefarious
Did you
to
vote?
any of those. I'm not saying we don't have the right to do it. I'm just saying, how much time and money are we gonna spend trying to find something that nobody to this point
Well,
has felt it was there?
I didn't think it would be this hard, Mr. Rigsby. I thought we
agree.
would simply ask for the invoices and canceled checks, and they would be delivered to the town of Stokesdale.
I agree with you. but
Did you vote for that motion that I made at that particular meeting?
I did.
Well, what has changed between now and then?
It's
Or then and now, excuse me?
nothing has changed. I still stand by that vote, but, again, I think, what are we trying to accomplish? you know, we're just trying to, it's kinda like the Coke machine. I mean, at what point do we hit the tipping point of we're spending a lot of time and attorney money and a lot of town money on something that, what are we getting for it? We don't know that, we don't think, I don't know of anybody that thinks anything, any money is missing or was used improperly. We don't have any evidence of that. Now, I mean, I certainly think we should, you know, we've asked, and if they don't have anything, they don't have anything, but I think they should, you know, respond to that request, but, well, I'll save my comments for later on.
Hear from Mr. Thacker? Is that Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Could you recognize Mr. Thacker?
I do recognize Mr. Thacker, please.
All right, thank you, Mayor. My name is Joe Thacker. I live at 302 North 7th Avenue in Maydan, North Carolina. I am currently and been president of Friends of Stokesdale since they incorporated in July of 2019. We have registered with the state of North Carolina. We are a nonprofit. And recently, in the past couple of years, got recognized by the Internal Revenue Service that we are a 501c3 corporation. The first thing that I knew about any motions or any action taken by the council here at Stokesdale was I read it in the Northwest Observer, which I appreciate the paper. I was not notified in any way that there was any action against Friends of Stokesdale. Didn't receive any phone calls, no letters, or anything else. So I think that notification come out about 2 weeks after the meeting was over, because I think she had to split the meeting in a later paper. So we've not had a lot of time to get this thing started. Now, and then yesterday, one of my members called me and said, well, we was on the agenda for tonight. So if, you know, I was a businessman when I lived here in Stokesdale. And if you're gonna want somebody to come appear in front of you, then I think you need to at least get a phone call or a letter that you can get to them or something. I mean, email, I don't do a lot of email. So I don't know where the email was sent to. But anyways, I'll get back to the subject here. We did find out that that there had been a request made for an audit and not received a reason for this request. And so I'm kind of curious about that, but anyways, I am curious about why Mr. Councilman Jones here, I think he's the one that instigated the request or started the request. And I just am confused. I have here a copy of a membership form where Mr. Jones had joined our organization the 1st of November of last year. So I have, you know, I don't know why he joined our organization and to turn around and wants to have us present him with an audit. I understand he is concerned about money spent that the town of Stokesdale gave us in 2019 to put a mural on the wall. I also understand or know that he was on the council at that time, and I think he voted no for giving us some money for the council, for the mural. But anyways, to address what it is y'all want to do, I did get a copy of the general statute that was quoted tonight. And yes, it does say that if a town gives a nonprofit a minimum of $1,000, they can request an audit. And in that version that I have, it says that the nonprofit is the one that has to present the audit, has to have an audit performed and present the audit to the town. So I question, in my mind, why y'all are asking for our records. And I just really don't think it would be in our interest to let y'all have our records, because Councilman Jones there was a member of our group. And I still don't know the reason for this request. I mean, do you suspect that there was money spent that wasn't supposed to be spent? That was spent for something else? I don't know. I've not been given a reason. But if y'all want to continue this request for records, we can give us a little time. We can find a company that can perform an audit on this particular year, which like I said, 3 years ago, and present it to you when they get finished with it. Thank you.
Did we request, what was the motion? The motion, we didn't
It was,
request an audit.
we didn't request
It's just
an
that there be a
audit.
formal letter written.
We didn't request
The
an
motion
audit.
was that there be a formal letter written by our attorney requesting the receipts and
That's the motion on the floor, yeah.
cancel checks.
We've been notified.
And that was the motion by Mr. Jones, and it has been seconded.
And that was just for the mural, is that correct?
Well, that's the only thing we can figure. We don't know for sure because it wasn't stated in anything y'all put out. But according to the statute, you have to give us $1,000, and then you can request an audit. You may request an audit. And it says in the version that I have of the statute that we're to get the audit and present it to you. We're not supposed to have to give you all the receipts for anything, so y'all can look at it. And like I said, I have really not going along with it because Councilman Jones there joined our group in November. And I'd have to check with council first to see whether we could even do that or not.
Well, I've never voted to request an audit. One of the things about the vote was, if something come up about the money that was spent on the downtown, what was it? It was a letter that came out, and we want to have receipts on file to show, how the money was spent.
The state,
That was what that was about. It wasn't an audit, to audit y'all by no
Well, that's
means. I
what
wouldn't have
this statute says, it's an audit.
Joe, can I?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we never voted for an audit.
Well, he made the motion, he says a couple of months ago, and y'all voted on it and approved
Not
it.
for an audit, Joe. I would never voted for an audit. I mean, why would I want to cause y'all to have to spend $2,000 or $3,000
Joe?
on an attorney? I'm not an attorney, but an accountant.
I'm looking at the minutes. It definitely wasn't an audit. Part of this too, what coincided at the same time was that grant Ms. Theory was referring to. I think it was a $33,000 grant. I believe.
I get the amount, except that they put money into the sign at the school, and then they had some extra money, and I suggested, why not a $5? Because there were some council members that thought, well, they're gonna just put it into your treasury, but that wasn't the intent. The intent was that it was supposed to be spent on the town itself in some form or another. So I can't remember, I'll be honest with you, what the amount was. I think the sign, I think it might have just been about 20,000 because the sign cost 13,000.
Okay.
But the sign.
But I want to be clear that an audit was not at all part of the motion. But also, I don't know, I guess it's the state. They contacted Ms. Martin, and we had to provide evidence on how that money from the $33,000 was spent. So that's the backstory here, in my opinion. I still do have. I still don't know if, I guess a town council can do anything, but, in terms of adopting a motion, but I still question if y'all were a nonprofit at the time, and if we can go back and ask for the nonprofit's record. The way I look at it, the best I can recall is you were a group of caring citizens that, you were saying working under a corporation, but I don't believe y'all had your nonprofit status.
The check was wrote, well, I don't have it with me right now, but it was wrote toward the middle or end of July of 2019.
July 22nd,
July 22nd. All right, we filled out the paperwork with the Secretary of State of North Carolina and got approved as a nonprofit about the 7th of July. This all was very, very new, very fresh. It was just getting started.
Okay.
So we were a nonprofit then.
Okay, so my recollection's wrong, so my apologies.
Okay.
But
Well, see, the sign has nothing to do with the Friends of Stokesdale. There was never a check written for the sign to the Friends of Stokesdale,
No,
anything like that, or the clock. So that has nothing to do with, what it is, they were just shoring up the records, because we've got records where the clock, the money was spent for the clock, money was spent for the sign.
the
And
clock,
they were just, the reason behind this, as far as I'm concerned, what I was voting for, they were trying to shore up records, you know, how the money was spent.
okay.
And that's
I'll
all.
show you the emails from
Nobody
the
wants,
state, Joe.
no, good Lord, nobody, I don't want you to, you know, I don't wanna, it was just that one thing that you'd be able to put that into the files.
The way we got involved with the clock was y'all installed it, or well, y'all didn't, but, well, Tim did. Well, no, he didn't either, because he voted against it, I think. But anyway, the former when the council members, when town council then installed the clock, and everybody kept wanting to know where it was at, couldn't see it, couldn't find it. So it was placed on, of course, you know, it's placed on fire department's property. So we engaged with the fire department to let us put landscaping around it. So that's what we did. We paid for the landscape. We put it around there. We've maintained it since then. And just recently, we had requested that y'all pay for some refreshing of the landscaping. And y'all, there was some discussion about it. I don't know how it all went exactly. But somebody made a statement that usually when somebody wants money, they have to get it approved first and then do the work. Well, I agree with that 100%. So I told the board members and the members of Friends of Stokesdale that we didn't do that properly, and we're gonna give the money back. And we returned the check. And that's the reason that check came back to y'all, because it was not proper procedure, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, like I said, the only time the town has ever given us any money that I know of, other than the Christmas parade thing, I think it was out of funds that it profit off of the Christmas parade. Then that was for the mural. And that money was spent to put the mural on the wall. The mural came about because we wanted to try to have some economic development in the downtown area. We're very, very serious about the history of Stokesdale. And we've got some other things going on that's gonna come out pretty shortly. But anyway, that's my explanation of it. And we'll be, you know, we're not trying to refuse to work with the town council of Stokesdale, but I would certainly appreciate if you could make sure that your procedures are correct, and that if a letter needs to be sent, then it be sent. And I'm not trying to blame anybody. You know, I don't want to blame anybody. But, you know, to sit here and think that we just absolutely refused to cooperate with the council, town council of Stokesdale, that's not true. We'll cooperate any way we can. But to give y'all any documents, anything, I'm gonna have to ask that, before we do that, we're gonna check, we'll have to check with council first.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker.
Okay?
So, Mr. Manlin, can I get some clarification? So the statute says that we may request an audit. Does the statute also say we may request individual documents, or does it specifically say we may request an audit only?
Well, the statute is designed so that you can request and require an audit, so that you request it, and if they don't provide it, you know, we can file a lawsuit and get a court order making them do an audit and providing us with that audit. So, no, it doesn't give that same kind of authority for saying, can we get a copy of how you spent the money? That's something less than an audit. But that also doesn't mean that you can't request it.
Gotcha.
It's just that I don't know that if we didn't, I don't know that we'd be filing a lawsuit to get a court order.
I agree.
To get it. But, you know, certainly it makes sense that you can request that. We just want to make sure, can we see the invoices showing how you spent the money? You know, they can comply or not comply.
Okay.
We have a motion and we have a second.
And restate the motion.
The motion is to have our attorney, Mr. Medlin, write a formal request, a formal letter request for the paid invoices and canceled checks in conformance with NCGS 159-40 to the Friends of Stokesdale.
And for
Also stated-
clarification, I think it's important to distinguish between any other projects the Friends of Stokesdale are engaged in and only those projects that they receive Stokesdale public funds for. I'm not interested in anything else. I'm just simply making sure that we have an accountability path that goes to them and back to us and then up to the state if we hear back from the state regarding that report that we sent in to them. And I don't have the date or the title of that particular document.
So we had a second
We have a second.
discussion, we're having some discussion.
Further discussion?
Since Mr. Thacker showed up here and he hasn't been informed, and it's clear that he's still not quite sure what was being asked for, I believe that it should be resent by whoever clerk, whoever sent it with detailed information on what that we need, and because we don't need an audit. Instead of spending attorney time to do that, because it's clear that he didn't know. I mean, and I think that they will voluntarily do the documents, so we'll have them in a file. So if we have a problem with the state, because we did have a state letter, come in about the money we'd spent. And that just helped, for us to have it in the file. And I don't think y'all, it won't be any problem there. We definitely don't want an audit. But I just can't see voting to spend the attorney time to send them a letter. They just don't need it. I mean, not at this point. I just don't think so.
I would concur with Mr. Landreth. I do not in no way support an audit, but I agree. Just a formal letter from the clerk with signed receipt should be sufficient, I would think.
I'm certainly willing to modify my motion. I don't, the original motion was for had the town staff contact the Friends of Stokesdale and get this information. I certainly would have never dreamed that we would be unable to pull off that feat. I went to a motion with Mr. Medlin because I was 100% confident that he could draft a letter, find the necessary address, and get a certified mail off to the Friends of Stokesdale for this, and we'd be done with it. The ball would be in their court as to whether or not they want to comply or not. At no point in time have I made a motion concerning an audit or requiring an audit. But these, again, are public funds that have been given to the Friends of Stokesdale. And my best understanding is I believe that any citizen could walk through the front door and ask for this same information from the town, and the town would in turn have to ask the Friends of Stokesdale for it. That's what I believe based on my layman's understanding of how these things work. And so I'm willing to modify my motion to have the town clerk draft a letter to the Friends of Stokesdale requesting all the paid invoices, all the canceled checks for any and every dollar given to the Friends of Stokesdale by the town of Stokesdale. And I hope it won't be necessary to send it certified mail, since members of the Friends of Stokesdale are here and they would be expecting a letter. And that would be my motion.
And could we add a friendly amendment to put in there why we're doing this? That it's because we need this on file, because of the state?
I feel like it's in part a public information request, and no citizen in this state is required to give their rationale for making a public information request. In my mind, there's no difference. I certainly would apologize to the Friends of Stokesdale in regards to, I did not think that the staff would send an email and then not wait for some confirmation or do a follow-up phone call or send a letter, et cetera. I think the town dropped the ball in that respect, and there's a lot that goes on in this building every day, and it's easy for things like this to fall between the cracks, and I think Joe Thacker's made a good point there, that this was not something he would rather find out about in the Northwest Observer, but this council made a motion, and the staff, they got started on it, and apparently got busy and didn't follow up on it. And so that would be my motion.
Derek, do you accept his?
Is there a second?
modification?
I'll withdraw the modification.
No, I'm sorry, but he
He
has changed his motion, so Derek seconded it.
You were second on my motion, Mr. Ford.
will
Do you
you-
accept
you
my
second
modification to my
change?
motion?
That it be done by the clerk.
Yeah, that's fine. I was listening to everything, but I'm digging through emails, and I just want to read an email when we're talking about how we were asked by the state. I do accept it.
Okay, thank you.
Bethany Davenport from ncommerce.com emailed us February of 2022. Good morning. To date, we have not received a progress report for your downtown revitalization project 2018-90-1256, blah, blah, blah. And the project is past its scheduled the end date. This report and extension request, if needed, must be received in order for this grant to remain in good standing. Below are the instructions for completing the attached form to either close out your grant or request an extension of 1 additional year. For grantees that have expended all funds, if you have expended all the grant funds you received, please check the final report where indicated. Once the final report is submitted and approved by the Commerce, you will receive a letter notifying that the grant is closed. We have not received that letter yet, to the best of my knowledge.
We have received that.
We have received that letter, okay. Well, so, but anyway, there's a backstory there, but I think to Joe's point, it wasn't adequately communicated. You know, that's what it was. I'll send you the email. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, would you ask her to come to the podium?
Would you step to the podium, please?
My name's Molly Bird. My name's Molly Bird. I'm a member of Friends of Stokesdale. Could you, John, have just picked up the phone and called our numbers on our website and everything and asked for this instead of having to make a public motion that, you know, kind of tarnished Friends of Stokesdale's name in the community? Mr. Jones?
I'm not following your question, ma'am.
Could the town council or you, as a member of Friends of Stokesdale, simply just picked up the phone or asked us for these documents that you're requesting in your public motion that you made? You made a motion in public for these documents. Why couldn't you have just picked up the phone and asked us?
The staff was perfectly free to do that, to notify Friends of Stokesdale in whatever means they chose. The motion didn't specify the method of contact with the Friends of Stokesdale.
No, I'm talking about your contact. Before the motion was made, could someone on town council not have called the Friends of Stokesdale and said, we need these receipts for the reason that Mr. Foy just read in that letter that he got, and say, we need those receipts, would you all mind giving them to us? Could that have not been done before the motion was made in a public meeting, is all I'm asking. Am I not clear?
I'm not following your logic, ma'am.
Before the motion was made in public that you made for these receipts, could you not have picked up the phone when you got the letter that Mr. Foy just read from in February and say, or I think that's the date he said, in February, you got a letter asking for the receipts for donations that you gave to the Friends of Stokesdale? Could you not have picked up the phone and said, we got this letter, would you please provide us with the receipts, rather than going through the motion at a public hearing?
This motion was made in conjunction with a policy that we discussed and voted on to allow nonprofits to request money from the town of Stokesdale. It was done during that time period. I could just as easily say, you knew this was going on tonight, why didn't you bring the invoices and canceled checks with you? I mean, I don't know what your point is. You're receiving public money in this capacity. When I'm in this seat, when we're in session, My duty is to look after the business of the town of Stokesdale, and this was a loose end that needed to be tied up. I never dreamed it would be this difficult, ma'am.
And I'm not questioning why you did, I'm not questioning why you did it, I'm questioning how you did it.
And-
How?
and-
Could you not have picked up the phone and called Friends of Stokesdale and said, we would like the receipts, instead of having to do a motion here in public and try to tarnish Friends of Stokesdale's reputation in the community? That's where I'm coming from.
I don't, if I may, I don't think, Mr. Jones was trying to tarnish anything. It's just that with our form of government, a lot of things that we do are done up here. We don't have an adequate staff to, make that decision, I guess, for lack of better words. We don't have a town manager that would have the autonomy to make a decision like that, to make the phone call and say, based on this statute. So unfortunately, and I agree with you, unfortunately, a lot of our business that seems minuscule seems to come up here, where it would probably seem more common sense to just be handled, back there, such as the Coke machine. It's like somebody could just, why does it need to come to the council? It's a lot of wasted time over a day-to-day business item. And that's something I think we probably need to have a discussion as we get a full staff about where that line is. But I understand your point, and it's not anything that was done for any reason other than this, just the way we operate up here, because it has to be on the public record, and we're not in here. None of us have office hours. We don't come in here during the week and sit and work or anything, and
That's fine. I just wanted an answer.
Well,
Thank you.
to answer your question, I made the motion on the behalf of the citizens of Stokesdale, not Tim Jones. I felt it was necessary for the accountability of these public funds that you've received. Going forward, the policy that we passed at that particular time should take care of the paperwork in advance so that this doesn't happen again, in a sense.
Is there a policy against sharing the reason why you're asking for those documents? Is there a town policy against telling us why you wanted the documents? I mean, why couldn't you just tell us?
It's our accountability. That's
I
what Mr.
understand.
Jones,
I
it's our,
understand
that's
why
the
you want
reason.
I'm just
That's the
saying.
reason for it. It's our accountability, because we have an accountability to the state.
I understand that. I said I understand why you asked for them. It was how they were asked for. And that's all I gotta say. I don't
understand
want
your
to break,
objection.
I don't want to take up any more of your time, because it was not why you asked for them, it's how you asked for them.
Thank you.
And ma'am, nobody would want to tarnish the Friends of Stokesdale by no means. I know too many people on the Friends of Stokesdale that I like to want to tarnish anybody. But, I just.
We have a motion, we have a second. Jim?
Jim is aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. And this is for the town clerk to write a letter requesting the receipts and cancel checks for any monies donated to the Friends of Stokesdale.
By the town of Stokesdale, sir. Not, the public money is sent to them by the town of Stokesdale. This wouldn't affect, for example, if they had a private donation from somebody in Madison. We're not interested in that. We're just simply trying to get our records straight.
Just the
here in
monies
this
from
town.
town of Stokesdale.
Yeah.
Discussion on water rates. Thank you, Mr. Thacker.
All right, if you could pass these down. All right, this was. Just got one. Just got one.
Okay.
Effective, I put this in the discussion, the water rate discussion, effective July 1st, 2022, for Forsyth County, who supplies the water for the town of Stokesdale. Their water rate to the town of Stokesdale was increased by 3.17%. It went from 2.49 cents per cubic foot to 2.569 cents per cubic foot. Unfortunately, you know, I think, I think it'd be in the town's best interest to pass on any rate for the cost of goods sold onto our end user, our customers. I think that's practical business. So when I look at the data taken from the Hazen and Sawyer document titled Town of Stokesdale, the water projections from February the 15th, 2021, the average household in the town of Stokesdale consists of 2.85 residents. The projected per capita use per person is 60 gallons per day. If you multiply 2.85 residents times 60 gallons per day times 365 days per year, it means the average household consumes 62,415 gallons per year. That's 5,201 gallons per month. The town of Stokesdale currently charges our customers $6.49 per 1,000 gallons, plus a $25 service fee each month. With the averages above, taken from Hazen and Sawyer, can conclude that the average current residential water bill is $58.75. So with the increase in our cost of goods sold from Winston-Salem Water, I'm going to make a motion that we increase the price per 1,000 gallons by the respective 3.1%. The new price per 1,000 gallons would be $6.70 per 1,000 gallons. In addition, we have a $25 a month service fee. I will make a motion to increase that by 2%, where the new service fee would be $25.50. I've done that in one motion, really, so.
I'll second the motion.
If this motion passes, the new average residential water bill would be $60.35, which is up from $58.75, which is a total increase of 2.72%. And it does mirror, again, with our cost of goods sold. It also, I believe we just got a price increase from our quality control lab of 8.3%, which mirrored the May inflationary numbers. Luckily, it wasn't June, which June shot up to 9.1%. And, you know, in staff and the operations of the water system. So that is my motion. Or I guess I had some comments after my motion, but Mike has seconded it.
If I understand this correctly, this is a 50-cent increase over, okay, I'm sorry, it's 50 cents more. It's $1.10 more than what we're currently paying.
No, yeah, it depends on consumption here.
Yeah, but I mean, it's average current residential bill.
The average current residential bill right now is $58.75.
You're going to 59.
No, sir. Look at the last, the motion, the new average residential bill would be $60.35.
With the 25, okay,
A total increase of 2.72% on the bill.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you please specify when you want this to take effect? I don't know, as far as the computer, the billing, it'll have to be changed, and I don't know that process.
It's a great question. Thank you for that. Take effect in the August billings.
I agree with that, added to the motion.
Very good.
July just went out. This will be August.
Do we have are we in discussion yet?
Yes.
So I just want to, because I was out of the room, I just want to get caught up on something. I know a lot of constituents are not huge fans of the $25 fee. So I just wanted to clarify that the fee is going up to cover, the only reason the fee is going up is to cover the charge that we incur to check the water, to make sure we're in compliance, that kind of stuff. It's not.
That have to do with the service, such as the 8.3% in our testing, the 4% cost of living increase for salary, or cost of living increase for all staff, which was back, it was back in January or February, but yes.
Okay, I just want to understand.
You know, the water systems, like everything else, has seen inflationary pressure.
I wish we just charged by the gallon, by the 1,000 gallons. And put your cost in and everything and then made it simple because that's for another time.
Yeah.
And I guess that's my point, Jimmy. I was kind of hoping to eventually move to a model where it was more consistent, just one, one thing, just to get away from that fee. But you're right, it's another time, but
Well, we need to
I'm
have
with
our
you on that.
figures together and know what we're talking about when we do it, so, but, one day maybe.
Is there any more discussion? We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Rigsby?
Aye.
Mr. Foy?
Aye.
Mr. Landrith?
I don't want to, but
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. Discussion on a part-time deputy clerk, 20 hours per week.
I added this to the agenda. I don't think it's anything we urgently need, but looking ahead, with Ms. Martin's retirement next year, I think the town would benefit from a deputy clerk, a part-time deputy clerk that could oversee, planning board minutes, serve as a backup for Priscilla and Water in the event that Priscilla's out, potential webpage updates, social media updates. It's deputy clerk, I'm really talking about administrative assistant at a rate of roughly, $17 an hour. That's what I'm thinking. I wanted to get council's, I just wanted to have the discussion. If council believes that's something that is needed, I'll be happy to work with another council member for a job description that could be voted on in a future meeting. So, I think it could be beneficial to the town, although it's not a pressing matter at this time. I'd rather be forward-thinking than reactionary, than having to backfill a gap that, Ms. Martin, she's gonna leave a huge gap that, of course, 20 hours won't even begin to cover, but I don't want to find ourselves, being behind the 8 ball by doing this after the fact when she retires. So that's my thinking about putting this in front of council for discussion. It is something that I do think would be a good idea.
I think it would be a good idea I hope we don't make Miss Martin mad, she just up and quits. But if she, gives us a little bit of heads-up notice, and we could put somebody in here a month or so before she does leave, and hopefully it won't be for a long time, but maybe 2 months. She decides what she wants to do then. I would probably be up, to consider it. I wouldn't want to do it right this second, not, we've got a new employee coming in, and let's see how that goes for a little bit, and then, start looking at it. Hopefully you're gonna stay around a long time, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd also wanna see where we're at in the budget and things. Wouldn't wanna disappoint Jim down there.
Well, if it's in the budget,
Yeah.
we can spend it if it's in the budget.
Well, I didn't say we could do that either, I just,
That's what
I
you.
just want to vote
That's what
for
you
it.
infer when you say, is it in the budget?
Right.
So it's spendable.
well, no, it's not spendable, it's not in the budget, well, it shouldn't be, but, and we'll probably have it, but.
Well, I don't think it's a pressing matter. I think it's something that it would be in our best benefit and wise to do, and be ahead of the game and not, learn from Miss Martin and Robbie, of course, we'll know a lot more then. Just down the road, I don't want to be behind. I want to be proactive, not reactive.
We look at some of the streamlining on these minutes and down the road, hopefully we'll free some time up with some people, but I agree, there's a possibility we're gonna need that, but I think we can look at some other, time-cutting solutions. 'Cause, I wouldn't even know where to start about how much time it takes for minutes.
So sounds like we're gonna table this for a future, or?
You could go ahead if you wanted to put a job, I mean, go ahead, and he's talking about being out in front of it, I have no problem with,
His
with him doing a job
suggestion,
description and how he wants to set it up and all that, I think it's a good suggestion.
his
Just, I don't
sugge-
wanna run out and hire some, I don't wanna put an ad in the paper next week and
No,
start trying to
no,
hire somebody.
I don't either. You know, I guess what I've said is how I feel. If I do put a job description together, I'm more than happy to do it along with another council member. I think, you know, we can't do it as a group outside of this meeting. Only one other council member, so I think the power, the exchanging ideas with another council member would make a better job description.
My only caveat, I agree, I think the reason we need it is to start not only, helping with the clerk side, but also to start helping a little bit with the water side, because Ms. Hunsucker, she's also looking at retirement at some point, so we need a transitional employee that can kind of work both sides. If one or the other does leave, we have somebody that can step in and bridge that gap. That's what I envision for something like this, is to be able to do a little bit of everything.
Agreed. The only employee that has informed me of a future retirement is Ms. Martin. I guess, hasn't put a date to it, and we believe it's next year, and we hope it's longer. But, again, I just want to be, looking ahead. And if this is not the appropriate time to do this, I'm comfortable with that, but, I do not want to be behind,
Let's table it for the time being, but I'll be more than happy to help you with, I'll give you input on job description.
We can do that, I mean, we can go ahead and vote to do the job description and everything, have it ready. I mean,
Yeah.
have it set on go, I mean, I'm not
Exactly.
telling you, have it set on go, and, when we all think there's a need, or three of us thinks there's a need, that's fine, I mean, we may end up having to go back to the 5 days, we've got all these employees, we're gonna have to have something for them to do, but.
it'd be good to have Dale's input too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But,
Exactly.
But I don't see any problem, you guys getting together and doing a job description, having it ready, set on go if we decide to go that way.
If you don't mind my help, I'll be more than happy
No,
to.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, I don't think we need to talk about it much further. I do value council's opinion on the matter, so.
Well, we'll bring it up at next meeting, and we'll have at least a little better information at the next meeting.
You don't want to do a motion to go ahead and work on the job description, have it done?
I don't think we need to make a motion. I've just agreed to help Mr. Foy in any
Okay.
way I
Oh,
can.
that's fine, we'll just, go ahead and do it.
We'll just do it informally at this point,
Yeah.
okay? All right, Metropolitan Planning DOT project, number 16A. Mr. Jones, I believe, one of your pits.
Mr. Mayor, I did ask for this. I don't know how to establish communication between the town of Stokesdale and this MPO board that makes all the recommendations for highway projects in the area, including Stokesdale. We could ask staff to contact them, or ask the attorney to contact them. I asked him to come to a meeting, I don't know, but we seem to be left out. For many, many years, the only representative in the area was from Summerfield, and I don't think they passed on any information to us. I was recently made aware that Summerfield had appointed another representative to the MPO board and they didn't consult Stokesdale, and so here we are again.
Oh, well.
So I'd like to know what council's idea might be.
Mr. Mayor, I have spoke with Reese.
Yes.
Reese, what's his last name? Reese Walker. I almost called him Witherspoon.
Ain't that pretty?
He was just recently appointed, and this guy is sharp as a tiger's tooth. And we did have a conversation, a very, very vague one, but I think he would serve this area well. I have a good, relationship with Reese in terms of just, you know, talking, I guess. I don't know him personally, but he's a sharp fella, so, you know, I'll be glad to make the introduction.
Could you further identify this individual? He's Reese Walker?
Reese Walker, he's a excuse me, he's a Summerfield Town Council member.
I don't know the gentleman.
Good guy,
Well,
good guy.
I think you're missing my point here. I know I could contact any individual as a council member, but this is a governmental entity that's making recommendations about highway projects in a town of Stokesdale, and we have no input, we have no feedback from them, it's just nothing.
What have we tried to do?
This was punctuated, I guess last week when I found out there was a big repaving project down 158 to the Forsyth County line, and I didn't know this was going on. I did manage to find the project number and have a conversation with the superintendent and what it was and what it's not. And it's, you know, been a topic of discussion. I just hate when a citizen asks me to have to tell them that, well, the town of Stokesdale doesn't know anything. Let us know if you find out. And that just seems, I don't know, like we're perhaps not doing our job. I think we had a conversation a couple of months back about this, and I don't know if we went anywhere with it, but it was on my mind as a loose end. If this council wants to leave it the way it is and just let council members contact whomever, however, then I guess I'm okay with that.
Do you have an alternate suggestion?
Well, I'm curious how these members get appointed, and whether or not the town of Stokesdale could have a representative, or, you know, Rockingham County or whomever. I don't know what that process is, but I do know that we haven't been receiving any information, or at least Ms. Martin hasn't. I don't know, maybe prior to that, there was information being sent to the town of Stokesdale.
I agree with you. I think that ultimately, if possible, we could get a member on that board is what you're ultimately probably seeking. And I think our new deputy clerk would be the right person to inquire about that and report back as one of his first duties. Because he would be a good representative to be on that, since it probably occurs during the day, during business hours. I mean, that'd be up to y'all, but I know most people here have jobs and have to, be tied up during the day, but.
Well, that's certainly an idea. I'm just saying that, the point came up tonight with this highway project that was affected at that particular rezoning. And it's just tough for me to sit here and say, well, tell a citizen, we don't know any more about it than you do. I mean, are we falling down on the job? I don't know, but it just seems like if there's an opportunity to get us added to a email list or have the representative pass information to us, then maybe we ought to do that. I don't know what the solution is, but it just seems like there's a disconnect. That's my point.
Has anybody ever asked? Because I would hope all we can do is, if we just ask to be on a information distribution, let's do that.
Reese contacted me right after he was appointed. I've got his phone number. Let me contact him and see if he won't be sure that we're included in whatever information he may be gaining. It can easily be done by email. If you want me to ask him to add all council members, I can do that.
That'd be great.
Okay.
I would
Further
just-
discussion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to make the request that you get him, if possible, to hook us up directly with the MPOs so that we get information straight from them, if it is being disseminated, so that for one thing, it'll relieve him of, any extra work. Otherwise, we'll be in kind of a game of telephone.
Say that again, email, say that again, you want it by email, is that what you're asking?
Just,
I don't know if Reese Walker's obligated to provide any information to the town of Stokesdale regarding any highway project within our town limits or not, being the representative for the area on that board. I have no idea how that works. So,
Go ahead.
so the shortest path to fix this problem is what I'm looking for.
Okay, he voiced an intention to keep us informed. Now, to your point, I wasn't made aware of this highway or the resurfacing of 158. As a matter of fact, the first I knew about it was someone who actually interviewed me right after I was elected, happened to be going through town and asking me about it, and I had no answer for them. Go ahead.
I tell you what I'd like for you to do is call me after you talk to him and let's us have us a conversation, and maybe by the next August meeting, we'll know more and a motion can be made.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion?
No.
Are there any citizens' comments? Do we have anybody online? No one online? Council comments? Mr. Rigsby?
Three watching YouTube.
I just want to reiterate that, this, board firmly supports the Friends of Stokesdale and their actions to beautify this town and move forward with their mission statement, and we support that, and I just want to make sure that's clear to citizens.
Absolutely, and thank you for coming to the meeting tonight, especially you, Mr. Wagner, taking time out to, before you're even officially on the job and come and check us out. Hope we didn't scare you away, but thank you all for being here tonight.
Mr. Landreth?
I'd just like to thank everybody, staff, everybody coming from Friends of Stokesdale, our new guy in the big office. Well, he ain't in the big office yet, but he might get there. And the Northwest Observer. Hope I don't get misquoted.
Mr. Johnson?
Everybody have a good night.
I'd like to thank the four people that are still here seated, still with us. I appreciate having a few citizens here. Feels real funny when we're looking at the empty chairs. And I'd like to welcome Robbie Wagner, our new town employee, and look forward to interacting with him when he starts work here. I think it's an indicator of his interest and devotion to the town that he's attending the meeting tonight before he starts work. I'd also like to speak to the Friends of Stokesdale. I don't know where the problem lies here, but we simply, I feel that I am responsible for my oath of office to attend to the business of the town of Stokesdale. Every dollar that goes through this town and out the door to somebody is accounted for in an audit report that bears my name at the end of the year. And I don't take that lightly. I'd also like to thank Yates Construction for their response on our recent water problem during the July 4th weekend. One of their employees was dedicated enough to work every day all the way through that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
The planning board meeting for Thursday, July the 28th has been canceled. The town council meeting for Thursday, August the 11th, will be at 7 p.m. here in the town hall. That's our next meeting. I too would like to thank everyone for being here with us. We've done fairly well tonight as far as getting it done. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jim?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Good night, folks. Thank you very much. It wasn't bad for as much as we had done. I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Got a question for you, Tom.
Please come back Monday.
Right down here, there's a real estate sign. A realtor has put up a sign for the new development that's,
All this, oh gosh. Everybody out of here.
I got you.
What you mean you got me?
I'm not leaving.
Okay. I'm gonna go do this right now. I'm gonna go do this right now.